Here now. Yeah,
the vocals
see, you did good, Daddy. Janet Jackson, best things in life are free. You got a cough?
No, I'm fine. I heard you on the Fact of the Day about conversing and starting conversations
with strangers.
Which is quite interesting because I was chatting to someone there not so long ago, and you talked about the situation in the shopping. You know, when you're out shopping, you say hello, but they actively avoid. They hate small talk in shops. So, do you know, they have their routine of which aisles they go up and down. But if they see someone,
or they avoid them,
they'll just slip.
But isn't it hard to avoid someone if you want to avoid them? There's being cute about it.
If you work hard at it, you can do it.
No, but you get caught out.
Now, this person's not me.
But you see, do you know what the crack is? See, you know what?
No, genuinely not me.
But anybody that goes to the shopping, right, to do the shop, we're always usually in a hurry because you have a time. No.
It's my favourite part of the week. I take the time,
Do you?
I have my routine up that lane, down that lane.
But you start a conversation on lane 1, right? And you continue on lane 2 and you bump into them in lane 3.
I know. And then you say, right, thanks, great conversation in lane 3. And then who are you stuck behind at the checkout?
Yeah, you're going on. So you carried it on then.
It's awkward. No. But anyway, there are people out there who will actively switch lanes, not because they dislike them, but to avoid small talk whilst
Do you know what?
shopping.
There's the cuckoo, right? Do you know when you're at the till and do you know when you're going to pay, right? And you hear the beep, beep, beep. Do you know what that beep's for? That's to put you under pressure to get through the till quicker.
Yeah, well, I've stopped taking them on now. If I'm shopping on my own, I'll just throw everything into the basket and bag it at the car.
Do you know what my fear is at the
stress the stress of racing them? I'm never going to win. So I just throw everything.
No, I do it, and people probably hate me because I fill the bags when I'm at the till. Do you know what I mean? Where people go to.
But you're not supposed to now.
But I do. I keep up with them. But listen, my nightmare is at the till, right? And you go to tap with your phone and it doesn't work. And then there's a big queue behind you and you say, can I run out to the car to see if you have any money in it? Has that ever happened to you?
All the time.
Oh, it's the worst ever, isn't it?
All the time. Anyway, let us know your shopping nightmares. 086 60 25,000. All right. Good luck. Lee doesn't switch his phone on until he goes off air and the cuckoo goes crazy. All right. Take care of yourself, Lee. It's the 9 till noon show coming up for you after a news update at 9:09. Hello, Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The Department of Education is being called on to immediately announce it will give teachers full-time jobs before the October cut-off. The Teachers Union of Ireland also wants to make sure teachers living in other countries who want to return home don't face delays in registration for jobs. At the moment, the lack of teachers at second level means some students can't study their chosen subjects. Liz Farrell, TUI President, says the situation can't continue.
We need to eliminate the red tape that hinders teachers who come back from overseas when they return to Ireland. We're seeing pinch points in certain subject areas. We are obviously very worried about that. Seems to be mathematics, Irish. The core subjects are being hit badly, as well as then the optional subject like wood, construction studies, metalwork and engineering.
33 pubs have closed in Donegal within the past year. Since 2005, 119 pubs shut their doors in the county. A new report from the Drinks Industry Group of Ireland shows a continuing decline in the number of pubs, especially in rural areas, with almost 2,000 closing across the country in the past 18 years. Associate Professor of Economics at DCU Business School, Tony Foley, says it's only going to get worse.
Almost half of the pubs have an annual sales of under 200,000. That'd be 4,000 a week. And very, very small numbers of pubs would be the typical big urban pub, Dublin pub, which has sales of over 1 million. I would say on the current trends, the expectation is that they will decline significantly.
People in Buncrana are being urged to come out and have their say today in the proposal to remove half-hour free parking on the town's main street. The move has been met with much opposition among the business community, with one local business launching a petition asking Donegal County Council to review the decision. A drop-in public consultation on the operation of on-street parking in Buncrana will take place between 12 noon and 5 p.m. today at the Inishowen Gateway Hotel. Councillor Nicholas Crossan says now is the chance for residents, businesses and other stakeholders to help establish the best option for all.
There's business people in Buncrana who would like to think that the half hour is the best way forward to maintain that. Others are saying, look, there's an advantage if we bring it back to 15 minutes. So let's hear everybody's opinion on it. And as I said, then we can decide from that then.
A driver with an outstanding bench warrant has been arrested after being caught speeding in Donegal. Gardaí from the Donegal Town Roads Policing Unit detected a vehicle travelling at 123 kilometres per hour in a 100 km per hour speed zone yesterday. The vehicle was stopped, and through the use of the active mobility device, it was established that there was a bench warrant in existence for the motorist. They were arrested and are expected to appear in court. Finally, for weather, today will be scattered showers and occasional bright or sunny periods with highest temperatures of 16 to 18 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Looking for an exciting and diverse career? One that's challenging and rewarding? Then look no further than retail. Centra offer a range of job opportunities from fresh food specialist to store management. We provide excellent learning and development, enabling you to reach your full potential in Centra. Find out more and apply today at centra.ie/careers.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. And now it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning to you. 9:05, Wednesday, the 23rd of August, 2023. How are you all keeping? I do hope you are the best you can be. And we're very pleased to have you on board for the show for the next 3 hours. And of course, across the day here on Highland Radio. We are kind of unique in that we have the best listeners, I would argue, in Europe. Certainly we can prove in Ireland, in that you switch on in the morning and you stay with us, and it's so much appreciated and so welcomed, and we acknowledge it and realise the importance of it. So thank you so much for your loyalty and sticking with us. Okay, we're going to keep you informed and entertained over the next 3 hours, bringing you stories behind the headlines, making the headlines. How do we do so? With your assistance. WhatsApp and text 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000, 074 91 25,000. Your emails from anywhere, comments at highlandradio.com. And just to remind you, if you're listening from outside the Republic, we want you involved in the show as well with the text, WhatsApp number and the phone number. It's 00353, and then you drop the first O and away you go there. I just wish that we could have international numbers instead of these convoluted international dialing numbers in this day and age, but we are where we are. Okay, let's have a look at the papers. The Finn Valley Voice. Is this a part of the programme that you enjoy when we go through some of the headlines on the papers too? Always good to get your feedback, by the way. But anyway, you can do so on 086 60 25,000. The Finn Valley Voice this morning. A Ballybofey mother of 2 disabled young adults are wheelchair users who want a wheelchair user, I beg your pardon, has appealed to Donegal County Council to drop a curb at the left-hand entrance to Blue Cedars. Siobhan Lund, a dentist, lives at Capri on the same side of the road as Blue Cedars with her husband Ian, an orthodontist, son Rory, who uses a power wheelchair, and daughter Kira. The family often walk into town on the footpath that has dropped curbs except for the left-hand entrance at Blue Cedars, forcing the family onto the main road. Full details on that story and that family's appeal in today's Finn Valley Voice. On to the Inishowen Independent. Business owners in Buncrana have slammed a proposal by Donegal County Council to abolish the half hour of free parking offered in the town. Visitors can park their vehicle for free for up to 30 minutes before having to purchase a parking ticket, but Donegal County Council is looking to abolish the grace period, which business people say will be detrimental to trade in the town. More than 100 businesses canvassed by Paul Brogan have signed a petition opposing the plan. Any change for the parking is going to be a disaster for businesses, particularly on the main street. Union McLaughlin from Max Bookshop said, adding that many businesses in the town are just hanging on amidst the cost of living crisis. They don't need anything that's going to make trading more difficult. And again, when we discussed this last week on the show, the one thing I mused was if you get rid of on-street parking, the grace period, does that actually mean there's going to be free parking spaces available? I doubt it. So there's more revenue for the council, but arguably no advantage for the businesses. The Inish Times, the father of 17-year-old wheelchair user is hit out at the lack of suitable public changing spaces for people with disabilities in Donegal, which is just one such registered public toilet. Changing places facilities are public toilets which are fitted with specialist equipment, including a hoist and changing bench. They provide enough space for up to 2 carers to support the person with a disability to use the changing place. Aaron Daly, who you heard on this show at the start of the week and who lives in Dublin but is a regular visitor to family in Inishowen, says there are no publicly available facilities in the peninsula, and on day trips the family were forced to bring a mattress so they can change their daughter Sophia in the back of their van. And then as a follow-up to the story, we heard that there could be the provision of 2 such facilities in Letterkenny, but that doesn't address the issue in Inishowen, and it's one certainly we'll continue to platform and highlight here so that we live in a, as much as possible, fully inclusive society. Donegal Post this morning, Slieve League Distillers has announced the historic release of the first legally distilled whisky from Donegal since 1840. And 3 of the earliest bottles in the run have already been auctioned for charity, with 2 going to support the people of Creasla at the Dublin Donegal Business Association Person of the Year evening, and 1 to the child loss charity Rosabel's Rooms in Galway. Slieve League single malt Irish whisky, the Kilcar release, marks a significant milestone in Donegal distilling history, rekindling an age-old craft and sharing the true spirit of Donegal with the world. And the couple behind that, we're sitting with them actually at the Dublin Donegal Business Association Person of the Year competition a couple of months ago. Lovely people, and we wish them nothing but success there. Right, we've been talking about electricity prices all week, and I was thinking when I was driving home yesterday evening of the lady towards the end of the show, and some of you tune in and tune out as it suits your lifestyle and what else you might be doing. She is caring for her uncle, and her bill is around about 200. I'm going to round it up just for simplicity. Her bill's around €200, and has been for the last couple of bills. And her last bill, €600. And simply the question was, how was she going to pay it, dreading heading into winter? Now, just to be clear, and I'm sure it's going to be mentioned in this article, wholesale electricity prices fluctuate, okay? That's what you'll hear from electricity companies, but they are 64% lower than they had been at their peak. So they're saving an awful lot of money. Now, if they're bad at hedging and buy too much expensive electricity, should we really have to pick up the tab because of their bad business decision? I don't think so. But we are paying the second highest rate for electricity. Now, that might actually be, I'll double check that. I'm mixing up some stats here. The price of electricity wholesale, where the companies buy, is definitely down 64%. We pay some of the highest electricity, but it's the second highest in terms of what we pay in terms of VAT and what have you on booze, and I'm mixing those two things up because we're going to be talking about those issues today. But anyway, households in this country, the Republic, are paying almost €1,000 more every year for their electricity compared to their European partners, the European average. New figures indicate electricity prices here are the highest in Europe, €900 a year more compared with the EU average. So that's the EU average. So that means there are some paying much less than the EU average, others paying more. Why are we paying out of our pockets? We're a rich country, allegedly, paying €900 a year more. So that lady we spoke to at the end of the show yesterday, who doesn't know how she's going to pay a winter bill when a summer bill is €600, why? Who is making the decision that it's okay for her and the thousands like her in Donegal? Why is that okay? It's not okay. Bills here are 80% higher than the European Union average, according to the Household Energy Price Index. The index is commissioned by the Australian Energy Regulator and the Hungarian Energy Regulator. It compares the price of energy in the capital cities of 32 European countries and Britain, which is not in the EU, of course. Its latest survey shows electricity prices here are the highest of the 32 capitals surveyed. Dublin and London are the most expensive cities for household customers in Europe, followed by Prague, Riga and Berlin. A press release issued with the index said. So, as I say, why are we paying so much here? Who is asleep at the wheel that is not making sure that electricity companies don't gouge us? How are they all charging prices that are too high? what? I'm not saying there's a monopoly or anything along those lines, but why does it so happen that all electricity supply, and I wouldn't mind, but at times, and we know the reasons why, at times, up to 50% of our electricity is generated by wind in this country. Quite consistently, it's around about 37% in any given day. There was at one point, and there does come points where it costs nothing to produce that wind energy, but we don't get any benefits from that. Why is that allowed to happen? Who is responsible? Who's asleep at the wheel? Who's not doing their job? We don't need ministers or government leaders or even opposition, but opposition, it's different for them because they don't have decisions to make, to say it's unbelievable, it shouldn't be happening, electricity companies shouldn't be we need them to introduce measures to ensure that electricity companies aren't gouging Irish people simply because we live on this island. On to the Irish Times now, and the national body for the triathlon and the organisers of the Ironman event in which 2 swimmers died have clashed over the circumstances in which the Cork race started. As the opposition pressed for an independent inquiry into the deaths, sharp divisions emerged between Triathlon Ireland and the US-owned Ironman Group over the status of the race, which began in rough seas at Youghal on Sunday. And before I read on, I mean, obviously there's a bit to and froing, but I heard a Galway TD on the radio who spoke perfectly as far as I was concerned on this issue. And he was asked, should there be an independent inquiry? What should be done? This, that and the other. And it was the most sensible commentary I've heard from someone in an awful long time. He said, let's just wait. He says, let's wait until such time as the coroner makes a determination on the cause of death of these 2 gentlemen who very sadly lost their lives. And I thought, wow, that just, it's common sense, of course, because he says, yes, of course, we have this situation whereby there are some that believe this race shouldn't have gone ahead and people are arguing as to whether or not they sanctioned it or not. And of course, then we have this terrible loss of life. But we don't know the correlation between the two. And really, until those facts are established, the conversation really is a bit previous. I thought he spoke really well, and I thought that made an awful lot of sense. And I think he might be on the show later. We shall see. But anyway, athletes have complained of horrendous conditions during the sea swim part of the event, in which Ivan Chittenden, who's 64, and Brendan Wall, 45, died. But people travelled from great distances from all over the world and locally, and of course there was always the choice whether or not to get involved. The Irish Daily Mail this morning: motorists will soon be unable to pay for their cars NCT in cash, a decision which has sparked furious criticism nationwide. The national car test, which all cars over 4 years old must pass, is to introduce the new rules soon in a bid to cut down on the number of appointment no-shows at its testing centres. Motorists will have to pay up front when booking a test, either by card, bank transfer or postal order. The NCT said it is bringing in the prepayment rule in an effort to slash the 2,500 no-shows and 1,000 late cancellations a week. But the move has been condemned, particularly by charities for the elderly, who say many older people prefer cash and are not computer literate and do not have credit or debit cards. It's prompted fears that older people could be subjected to higher levels of financial abuse by a growing ban on cash across society. And I think the views of our listeners are almost unanimous in that we don't, when I say we, I mean the listeners, don't want this rapid progress towards a cashless society. Pubs are under pressure. Nearly 2,000 pubs have closed in the last 18 years, with 108 boozers shutting their doors in 2022 alone, a report shows. This is The Sun. The Drinks Industry Group of Ireland, which has published a study, which shows that 1,937 establishments across the country have shut since 2005. This represents a 22.5% decline, and the rate of closure is speeding up, according to the group. Now, locally here in Donegal, compared to 2005, we've a quarter less pubs now. 26.3% of pubs that were open in 2005 are now closed. It's not the highest figures in other counties such as Limerick, Roscommon and Cork. They're in and around the 30%, but we're not too far behind them. 26.3% of pubs that were open in 2005 in Donegal are now closed. And as I said, and I confused some of my statistics, there are some calls, and I can't see it happening, for a reduction in excise and what have you on booze. It's the second highest rate in Ireland. In Europe. Ireland has the second highest rate of VAT and charges and what have you. Now, we were talking yesterday about crime in Donegal. 16 assaults in the last 6 days, really quite significant. And we appreciate Gordon Al Maguire's stats on that. But obviously there's a great deal of concern as to what's going on in Dublin. Now, we did hear from a group that works with tourists. They say they've seen a slight increase in the amount of tourists that need assistance, around 790, I believe it was, so far this year. 9 out of 10 of those tourists go on to hopefully enjoy their holiday, but continue it in any case. And there's an awful lot of conversation about what's happening in Dublin. So what would be an appropriate response? Well, they've decided to put Garda riot squads on the streets of Dublin, armed Gardaí on the streets of Dublin. Now, what do you think about that? Do you think that's a bit of an overstep to deal with the type of criminality that's ongoing down there? Well, anyway, the Garda riot squad, backed up by armed police units, is to be deployed onto the streets of Dublin to tackle the scourge of violent crime blighting the city. In a major announcement yesterday, Garda chiefs revealed they will use €2 million worth of government funding to fully deploy the National Public Order Unit to tackle the capital's crime problem. A new Garda policing plan will also see armed units increasing their vehicle patrols around Dublin, though they will not walk the streets. The significant development comes after a recent spate of high-profile incidents of crime in the capital, and they're high-profile because the papers and the radio stations have made them high-profile. This includes a horrific attack on American tourists in Talbot Street and an incident in the heart of Temple Bar. But it does seem a little bit draconian, does it not? What do you think? 086 60 25,000. Maybe a more proportionate response spread across the country to make everyone feel safe wherever they are. And finally, congratulations to New York woman Roisin Wiley. She is the new International Rose of Tralee. She admitted to being speechless as she was crowned last night. The 27-year-old who lives and works in Manhattan and whose parents hail from Limerick was the red-hot favourite to win this year's contest. Yet a stunned Roisin told co-hosts Dahi O'Shea and Catherine Thomas that she was overwhelmed when her name was read out. Last year's Rose Westmeath woman Rachel Duffy placed the sash on Roisin as she admitted to being emotional at handing over her crown. And lots of you tuned into it. 500,000 viewers tuned in for the first night live. And I'm sure many of you again did last night. If you've any views on that, again, 086 60 25,000. It is the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the C-Store National Large Forecourt of the Year for 2022. It's the 9 till noon show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
The stunning 4-star Ballyliffin Lodge and Spa are hosting their fantastic wedding fair on Sunday the 27th of August from 1 to 4 p.m. Full hotel show around, nearly 40 top-class wedding exhibitors, plus so much more. One fair not to be missed.
The Citroën EC4 and all new EC4X are fully electric, so that means zero emissions. Their progressive hydraulic cushion suspension means zero vibrations. Their renowned advanced comfort seating means zero discomfort. And now, their impressive finance offer means % interest rate. Book a test drive today at your local Citroën dealer and zero for yourself.
Our biggest ever summer sale is now on. Up to 70% off while stocks last. Shop in store at Evolve Clothing Letterkenny Retail Park or online at evolveclothing.com. Our biggest ever summer sale is now on.
Do you have your ticket yet?
€2,500 every Friday.
Plus a chance to win big.
10,000 cash money.
Get your ticket today. Go to highlandradio.com.
Summer's just got better.
Ooh.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at
The time is 9:23. Okay, Tracy McGuinness is ATU Masters of Research student and physiotherapist in Killybegs Hospital and joins us now. How are you getting on, Tracy? Great to see you.
Good to see you too. Yeah, I'm getting on fine, thank you.
Good stuff. Right, now you're working on really quite an important project, and I think it's important in that lots of people have different views on how we dealt with the pandemic, and there's nothing to suggest that we might not have to deal with future events into the future. So we have to learn what we did right and I suppose what we did wrong. Now, you're working on a new project that focuses on an aspect of this. Can you outline it for us?
Yeah, so our project focuses on understanding the effects of the hospital visiting restrictions on the family members of older adults during the COVID-19 pandemic, because as we're all aware, the restrictions have been there to ensure patient safety, but they also led to significant emotional and psychological challenges for families who are unable to visit their loved ones during these times. So our goal is really to uncover the emotional impact and gain insight on how the families cope with the absence of the physical presence there. So we would love and we'd be humbled to hear families' stories, struggles and strategies that they develop to stay connected with their family members during that time.
And will this, or do you attempt to balance this with the reasons as to why these restrictions were put in place? In other words, that we can sort of say, right, this was a public health measure to protect people, but then you might be able to establish the impact it had on people and will you weigh those up, or is that part of this study?
Well, the main part of the study is just to explore the experience of family members in the northwest of Ireland and ascertain how it affected them. And really, we would love to provide recommendations to healthcare going forward for innovative ideas to stay connected. I think the HSC made great steps in their digital transformation during this time. What they achieved in 3 months would have taken 5 years normally to stay connected with people. So just getting people's stories, did it work well for them? Did it not work well for them? Like, there's no right or wrong answers. It's just, we just want to hear people's stories at this stage.
Yeah, and it's difficult for me to interview on this because I know you'd be very conscious of not trying to skew it one way or the other, Tracy. Do you know what I mean? Yes. So that you end up sort of maybe, so you want it to be fully representative, don't you?
Yes, I want to hear everybody's stories, as I say, the good, the bad and the ugly, and just get those stories conveyed. Really what motivated me as to do this project as a physiotherapist, I feel family play a vital role in the healing process of a patient, and especially a family member, because they provide both emotional and physical support, motivation and, a sense of belonging, which helps in the healing process. So research has widely shown the importance of family in the healing progress of a patient.
And that's in the hospital environment, you mean?
Yes, in the hospital and at home as well.
Yeah, but
in the hospital
for the purpose of this, so the importance of visiting people. Now, I think, you will get all different types of stories, but I mean, I know from working on this programme, Tracy, it was very, very difficult for people because there was the sense that, A, they couldn't see their loved one, especially if there was, if they thought it might be an end of life situation, but then felt guilty concerning themselves with the emotional impact this was having. The person who probably felt isolated in the hospital, it was an absolute, and you could say the same in other healthcare settings, it was an absolute nightmare for people.
Yeah, it was a very upsetting time, and people really had to change their way of communicating, of staying in touch with people. I've heard stories, a friend of mine tells me a story of her father had COVID-19 and, the whole hassle of getting him and the stress and anxiety of getting him to the hospital. And then all of a sudden she left him at the hospital, the doors closed, and that was it for 3 weeks. She didn't hear or see or touch or stay in contact with that. And I think it's really important that we portray those stories and, learn from them what we can do better or what was done good.
Yeah, because... Again, not wishing to sort of preempt the type of input you might have from people, but I think the majority of people would want us to look at this, understanding that maybe you have to do things to protect people, but you have to look at what the consequences of those actions are.
Yeah, this is true, yeah. And just see, is there better ways of getting around it or strategies for helping people to cope? Maybe people develop strategies, and even if you could convey those to people as well going forward.
Now, are you focusing on people that were in hospital receiving treatment, or are you also interested in hearing from couples perhaps who, one partner was pretty much excluded from the hospital during pregnancy, for an example, or is it specific to someone who's being treated in hospital?
No, it's specific to, I suppose, older adults, patients that were over 65 years of age, because it's such a vast amount of patients that were in hospital at the time. We just focused on the over 65s because a lot of research was done on patients in nursing homes. So being in an acute hospital setting is a little bit different because the family members aren't familiar with the staff. So it was another challenge for them as well. So we're really focusing on older adults that were in acute hospital during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And just more generally, just I thought it really interesting, your comments about how, having access to visitors helps people recover. How does that happen? Is that the psychological impact of it? Is it because it gives them more hope, or even separate to the pandemic? Why do you think that is such a benefit to the patients?
I think it's a benefit to patient because motivation, hope, and as well they can act as an advocate for the patient. So if they need to communicate to the healthcare professionals, because sometimes people are just too ill to communicate, the family member can represent. The family member can tell you a little bit more that you mightn't get from the patient as well, from a healthcare professional view as well. So yeah, they're very good advocates.
Right. So how do people get involved in it, Tracy?
Yeah. So we have a Facebook page. It's called Visiting Restricts Res. We also have an email address called visitingrestrictionsresearch@atu.ie. It's quite a mouthful there. And we have a mobile number as well. So if people have pen and paper ready, it's 089 404 5251.
And we'll retain all of that information here because people, I think, know our number and stuff off by heart, and we're more than happy to pass it on. And do you hope to interview people, Tracy? Is that how you're going to gather the information?
We're very flexible with interviews. We can do them online, we can do them over the phone, or we can do them face to face. And like that, I just want to emphasize there's no right or wrong answers. There's no specific stories we're looking for. We just want to hear your story. And
it's okay if you think it was the right thing to do and you were happy with all the outcomes. That's fine too. You want to hear all different sides.
As I say, I want to hear
all
the sides of the story. And it'd be a great learning curve for everyone to hear all the sides of the story.
It's a big piece of work when obviously you've got to go through the interviews and then collating it and presenting it. When do you hope to have the findings of this project available?
We hope to have the findings for next September. So we hope as well to present them at conferences, nationally and maybe internationally as well. We've worked closely with a project that was done in Portugal under the same topic, and they had a lot of interesting findings from there. So we're just kind of going on from their research as well. So
yeah, and have you decided how you're going to present it? Is it going to be sort of, and I think those reports are very impactful, where you do have quotes from people, and it's sort of really, such and such a person, and this was an experience. It really brings home the reality of what people went through.
Yeah, I just want to emphasise well that everything's anonymous during the interviews. Names aren't recorded or anything like that. But we hope to get our research published and get our findings given out in that way. And of course, we'll come back on Highland Radio and tell you the results as well.
Please do. Thank you very much for that. As I say, we'll retain all the information here, the contact information. But what effectively is, we're speaking to Tracy McGuinness. She's an ATU Masters of Research student and physiotherapist in Killybegs Hospital, and is working on a project focusing on understanding the effects of hospital visiting restrictions on family members of older adults over 65s during the pandemic. And I will ask you just to go through the contact details one more time in case people are keenly waiting with a pen. But as I say, we'll retain them. So if someone says, right, I've an experience I want to share, what do they do next, Tracy?
I think the simplest thing is just give me a buzz on 089 404 5251.
Okay.
And we also have an email address, which is visitingrestrictionsresearch@atu.ie. And we're on Facebook as well.
Visiting restrictions research at atu.ie. Thank you for your time. Yeah. And as I say, I look forward to chatting to you again once that piece of work is ready to be made public. Thank you so much. That is Tracy McGuinness, ATU Masters of Research student. Okay. 086 60 25,000. Received an email this morning. Maybe you can help this listener with this dilemma that they are in. Now, we were going to wait and put it to Keeley as part of Ask Greg, as Caroline calls it, but I thought I'd give it a mention now just to see if you've got a view on it. And maybe it is just reflective of a number of things, modern society and different ways of making an income, and B, I suppose the cost of living that makes us think about different ways of doing that. But I'll read on anyway. Dear Greg and listeners, I'm writing to seek your advice on a rather personal matter that's been weighing on my mind the last while. I'm a young mother who lives in a rural area of Donegal, and I have been considering the idea of joining OnlyFans. Now, for those who are not aware, OnlyFans is a platform whereby, for the most part, you people sign up and they publish pictures of themselves, often in a state of semi-undress or undress, and people subscribe, and a lot of people make quite a lot of money from it. So this young mother, who's from a rural part of Donegal, is considering signing up to OnlyFans. They go on to say, while the prospect of financial independence is appealing, of course, I do have some concerns. Firstly, I worry about being recognised within my tight-knit community and what might come from that. I live in a small town and word tends to spread really quickly. I fear the judgment and scrutiny that may come my way and in the way of my family, or by the way of my family. I want my privacy, of course, but I also want the freedom to express myself on such a platform. As a mother, I want to set a positive example for my child, but I also want to make choices that empower me and helps me to pay the mounting bills that everyone's facing at the moment. I'm reaching out to you and your listeners in the hope that you can provide some guidance and insights. Please keep my name anonymous, of course, which we have. So this is a young mother of children who is living in rural Donegal. They want to join OnlyFans because they see that as a way of empowering themselves. They must feel confident about themselves and also paying the bills, but they have their concerns, their obvious concerns that someone could find out, and what would the neighbours think effectively. Would you do it? Would you advise her to do it? Not to do it? Why? 086 60 25,000 086 60 25,000 from outside the Republic. 0035386 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp and text. That person looking some advice. Please help if you can. I understand the dilemma. In all elements of, I think they covered really what most people might be concerned about, but also what might motivate some people to go down that route.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
The Northwest Truck Fest returns to Milford Mart this Saturday and Sunday with live music from Norman Borland on Sunday afternoon from 2 till 4 p.m. This ad is sponsored by JD Recovery Services, Kilmacrennan and Donegal Town. 9139303. Looking for the best daycation ever? Well, you're in luck. We've teamed up with Fáilte Ireland and asked the public what their favourite daycation activities are in Leitrim. And they didn't disappoint. Wayne texted that paddleboarding round Carrick-on-Shannon with the Paddle Shack was a great day out. Will said he and his wife loved their day out cycling along the Shannon Blue Way with electric bike trails. They would highly recommend for a peaceful day out. And Tim said his kids loved their day exploring Parks Castle on the shores of Lough Gill. Cleona said her day out at Lough Allen Adventure to learn the Wim Hof method has changed her life. While Will said taking the day boat with Moon River Cruises was the best crack he had in years. Plan your best daycation ever at discoverireland.ie and experience the feeling of a holiday all in one day.
Exam results arriving? Your career starts with Northwest Regional College. On the day your exam results arrive, come along to your local Derry, Londonderry, Strabane or Limavady campus to apply for a course or confirm your place. Choose from our wide range of apprenticeships, level 3 diplomas, foundation degrees and so much more. For information, visit nwrc.ac.uk/results. Northwest Regional College. From here to career.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
The 9 till noon show brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Donegal Down Syndrome.
Okay, we're joined in studio now by Alice Doyle, who's visiting the county as she puts herself forward as the first female to run for the position as Vice President of the IFA nationally. A very good morning to you, Alice. Thank you so much for calling up.
Good morning, Greg, and to all your listeners. Great to be with you in Donegal this morning. And nice fine morning so far.
Isn't it?
Rain is just holding off.
It's always lovely up here. You attended a meeting last night. Was it a general IFA meeting, or was it an opportunity to put forward your candidacy to local members?
It was an opportunity to visit Donegal first and meet the IFA officers, particularly in Donegal. I have met some of them before, but it was a good opportunity to meet them as a group of them last night, and I had a great welcome from them, I have to say, as always in Donegal. And we had a good opportunity to chat about all issues, really, not just election issues, because I deal with a lot of issues in IFA, and most of those are very relevant to Donegal. Things like the Fair Deal scheme, the inheritance and succession, and health and wellbeing. All of those come under my remit as chair of the Farm, Family and Social Affairs Committee. So we had a good discussion about all of those issues as well. So it was a broad discussion about many issues, and particularly in my position as chair of the Farm, Family Committee. And yes, of course, I am running for Deputy President of IFA, and the first woman to do that, to try to do that in its 68-year history. So of course that came up for discussion and was part of our discussion last night.
Yeah, but you have a good starting point in that you'd be familiar to listeners of this programme and others, and also to farmers through your work as chair of the National IFA Farm, Family and Social Affairs Committee. So you have a bit of a head start. Not a head start, but you've...
Well, yes, I would be known, I suppose, yes. And I have visited Donegal in that capacity before as well, back about a year ago. I think I spoke to you even here on radio when I was up visiting for the farm safety and health project we had up here. Donegal ran a very good open evening out on Porter's Farm, and it was a terrific evening, great, very well attended, a lot of very good discussion around all those health and safety, particularly farm safety issues. So I have to say, I would be well known through that. I would be well known throughout the country in that I promote all these issues, because I believe IFA should be promoting these particular issues, the area of, particularly, as I said, about inheritance and succession, the farm safety, and the Fair Deal scheme, which is something that IFA worked very hard to get. And I know in all counties and also here in Donegal that was greatly appreciated when we got the 3-year cap for farmers on that. And part of my job is to make sure that farmers are aware that is available to them, and if they need help in applying for the scheme or whatever, that they do come to their local IFA office, who usually put them in contact with me or one of my members of my committee who will deal with it. So we work very hard towards that, and that would be my aim. Again, if I go forward, as I put myself forward in this position, I think it's because I am used to putting information out there to farmers, listening to what their needs are and responding to the needs, whether, as I said, it was any of those issues that I have mentioned. They are the main issues that were being raised by farmers in certain areas. Yep. And we took those on board, and we're now providing the information to them around that, and to make farmers aware of the fact that IFA are a very strong body that way, that not only do we advocate for farmers, we negotiate on their behalf, but we also provide a lot of help and information, and not to be afraid to come forward to look for that.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're putting yourself forward as the first female to run for the position as Vice President of the IFA nationally. What's the significance of your gender in this campaign?
I think it's quite significant in a way. Like, females have always been involved in farming. They're actually almost, I suppose you could say, half of farming in an unregistered way, in that they're the partner on a farm, like I am a partner with my husband on the farm. Many of them work off farm and contribute to the farm through their income. So to have those recognised. And women have always been involved in IFA at local level. It's only now that we're coming to national level, and that's because of change of circumstances for people. We've had people always at local level, but we've had people at county level. We've had some very good female county chairs who served at National Council as well. There is another female who is a national chair of the Farm Business Committee. But I think I am the first one who has, I don't know whether you would say courage or inclination or encouragement, being given the encouragement to go forward to run for the position. And I think it's timely, because in every organisation balance is needed, and I do think the female brings a balance into it. When we have male and female working together, we get a better outcome, I think. And I think that I will bring that, if I was given the opportunity by the members and as I'm elected as Deputy President, I would bring that balance to to it, and I would bring a skill set, I suppose, that others may not have.
And presumably you may bring women to the ballot box who perhaps don't ordinarily vote. There could be a quite a significant female vote here if they see you as the person they want in this position.
Absolutely. I would hope that both genders will vote for me. But I do agree with you. I think in the past we would have seen a lot of members are female. They don't necessarily come out to meetings and cast their vote where you had to come out to a meeting and cast your vote. This year, because the voting is by ballot, a postal ballot, I think that's going to help as well. It's going to give the females an opportunity who may not, maybe because of child commitment at home or work commitments or whatever, cannot get out to a meeting, can now put their ballot in the post. And I think that will help me. Of course it will. And I think they will see me.
To some extent, there's probably an element of kind of quasi-pairing that goes on as well. You know, because they probably have the other half that's voting, and
very true.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
So how many IFA members take part in this vote?
There's about 73,000 members
really
throughout the country, all the way from Malin to Mizen and from Galway across to Dublin. So it's a lot of members, and you know the organisation is a very big organisation. It's a very diverse. When I say diverse, I mean in the sense of different commodities. There's all the different commodities, so we're representing all commodities from all parts of the country. All kinds of backgrounds. We have a lot of mostly full-time farmers, but a lot of part-time farmers now, and I very much represent all of that because I work in partnership with my husband, but also worked off farm.
Yeah. Do you have any concerns about the position of the IFA at the moment? In that, you know, you certainly might hear up here a lot of conversation about how they're in it for the big guys. That they're government mouthpieces at times. They're not interested in, the small rural farm, the small family farm. I'm not saying all of that is true, but that's the type of criticism that you might hear. You can very easily lose that connection with people on the ground if you're not careful. Do you have any concerns about the direction, or maybe do you feel there needs to be a change in tact from the IFA? Do you recognise some of those criticisms that I've outlined to you there?
I can see why there could be certain criticisms. Every organisation will be criticised at certain times, no matter what your organisation is. And particularly when you represent, as I said, a very diverse group of commodities, you're always going to have that, because at any one time, one commodity will seem to be more dominant in the organisation than the other because there's a crisis in that particular commodity. So, the others will feel a little bit left out, but you would hope that the turn of each one will come. And I think IFA do that, and it isn't always obvious, because a lot of what we do is done behind the scenes, and a lot of work isn't public. We don't necessarily go out and blow our own trumpet and say all the time what we're doing for everybody. So people can sometimes not be aware of the fact that we are actually working very hard for everybody. It might appear that because that's the one that gets the headlines all the time. I certainly do believe we have a good body of work to do in relating to the public in general, because in the past everybody in Ireland were very closely related to a farming background. There were never any more than one generation removed from a farming background. That has changed dramatically because of the reducing number of farmers, for starters, but also the fact that more people are moving away from rural Ireland, they're moving into the towns and cities. So they become more removed from the rural organisations. And because that has happened, I think we need, as a farming organisation, to relate better in future, or to just communicate, I think, more with the non-farming community.
Do you have concerns about the commitment from this government to farming in this country? Because again, there are many feel that it's very easy to blame farmers for climate change. It's easy because a lot of townies will go, yeah, of course it must be them, and I can hold on to my petrol and diesel car and I'll continue to wash out my tomato sauce out of my glass jar and I feel I'm doing something. Then we see these deals like the Brazilian beef deal, and we're seeing Eastern European beef and other products landing on our shelves here, and it's getting harder and harder and harder to make a living. Is there another generation of farming in this country? Like, do you believe that, do you have any concerns, let it put it to you like this, that farmers on the scale that we have now are being or will be legislated out of business for all the wrong reasons, because we will be transporting produce great distances, we'll be importing it, for all those reasons? Do you have any concerns about about farmers being legislated out of business?
It's a very good comment, and I think a lot of farmers do worry about that, and it is a real concern. I mean, legislation has become very tight. It has become very intrusive in the sense that it's impacting on everybody at this stage, farming and non-farming, but particularly in the farming community, the legislation is very, very imposing. And I think what has happened with the legislation, whereas legislation is required to a certain extent, we understand that, and we're not afraid to accept legislation, but I think it has to be informed legislation, and legislation that is informed by how farming works. Farming is somewhat different in that it's open to many different elements that change on a regular basis. We only look out the window this morning, and weather is a huge impacting factor. And if you legislate that, certain things can only be done in a certain closed period for farming, and the weather doesn't allow you to do that, then that's a serious regulation that has been put in there, and it's going to impact seriously on the farmer. So I think we will accept legislation, but it has to be legislation that is informed, and I think that's part of the job of our organisation, to inform government, who in turn inform the European Parliament, because most of it is coming from Europe, and we have to now realise that we're not just dealing with our own local government, we're dealing very much with European legislation, and that's impacting very much on us. And we have legislators in different, in a different environment, legislating for a community, for a type of industry that they're not familiar with. So they're bringing in regulation that is so tight that doesn't give way any room at all for wiggle room in there, in order for things like the weather, for change of Europe, for markets. You have like all things, like you have international markets, you have the war in Ukraine, and a war in any part of the country. If you have a drought in America, that could change the whole cereal, the cereals here. So you have that. You have all these factors which can impact on farmers, and we as an organisation have to do our very best to try and bring forward policy that will inform our national government, and in turn the European government, and to make sure that any regulation that comes in is
but we have to make sure on a European level that we aren't picking out what industries different countries have in. In other words, is Ireland trees, solar panels and data centres, and Poland is beef?
That's very true. We have to be very careful about that.
Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yes, I do.
So in other words, it's not really. It's not that these legislations and rules are affecting countries equally.
Exactly. And we are an agricultural producing country. We produce food. That's what we're good at. And as you mentioned earlier, taking in beef from third world, from other countries, for say Argentina, where it's produced not in as good an environmental conditions as we can do it here, it seems totally illogical. We can do the job here, and accept that we can do the job very well here. We can produce world-class food in world-class conditions from a climate point of view, and that should be recognised. And it has to be recognised that that's our strength, and that we must be given the opportunity to do that. Because if not, we're talking the two sides of our mouth. We're talking about saving the world, from a climate point of view, and then we're going to regulate people out of producing food in a very good environmental
when you see conditions. This is the whole, and we could get into a whole broader conversation about bringing people along this sort of save the world conversation. It has to make sense. It has to make sense. Obviously, you're in the region from where the Agriculture Minister comes from, and you're sourcing votes from the same pool that he is. Are you satisfied with how he's working for the farming community?
Look, at all times we support the Minister for Agriculture in what he does. We will also differ with him on many occasions about how things are being done and how his department are running things. And yes, we've had a lot of good things have come from Mr. McConalogue. He has done a lot of good work for farmers. We can always say too that we've had our differences with him. He has always listened to us. Whether, as my mother used to say, you can hear people, you may not heed them. I know he always hears us. I'm not so sure that his department always heeds us. But having said that, I know his heart is in the right place. He would be doing his very best. It isn't always within his hands and within his means to do it. His hands can be tied sometimes as well by higher powers that don't allow things to happen. But certainly he's always been open to engagement, and I think we have to accept that. That's very important, that a minister would be open to engagement.
And finally, pardon my ignorance, or maybe it's not. I seem to have in the back of my head. If you are successful in election as vice president, does that mean at some point you go on to become president?
No, it doesn't. No, it's not a given.
Right.
And my focus very much would be that if I got elected, this is a 4-year task, and if I can give my best 4 years to that, I would be only focusing. Very much my goal is to do a good job in that 4 years, and whatever comes after. But certainly my eye is not on the next target. My eye is on this target and on this goal, and to make this a success.
All right, Alice, thanks for calling in. It's been nice to have you in the studio. That's Alice Doyle. Ballots will be going out to IFA members, and that's in November, isn't it?
The 1st of November.
1st of November.
The ballot papers will be arriving in people's houses, and they have until the 8th of December to return them, and they can either return them by post or they can take them to their local branch AGM and return it that way. So they have a number of opportunities this year to actually return their ballots, and we'd encourage people to use their ballot, particularly people who haven't come out before, to do that. And can I take this opportunity to thank you for having me, and to wish all your listeners safe farming and healthy farming, healthy and safe, and all your listeners in general. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alice. That's Alice Doyle there.
It's the 9 till noon show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart, with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
Tá cuaram lí a clochtóirí Saoire Naisce ar fáil inis de leanaí sé agus 7 mbliana d'aois. Cilíonn sé seo gur féidir le gach leanana faoi 8 mbliana d'aois carta cuarta doctóra oil. Má tá carta cuarta doctóra ag dul leanamh hana féin, sinnig an HSC an carta go thua Irish. Chun tuilleolas a oil, nó chun dul leanamh a chlárú le haid cuaram lí a clochtóirí faoi 8 Saoire Naisce, pé chuig hsc.ie/GP Visa Cards. Is féidir chlárú inis. Tionscanmh de cuid rialtas na hÉireann.
For all the biggest names in cosmetics and makeup, visit McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Choose from Lancôme and Clarins, Blank Canvas, Inglot, Note and many more. With a great selection of gift sets also available in-store and online. For any cosmetics or makeup queries, just talk to our resident skincare consultants Mary or Gemma. McGee's Chemist, Main Street Letterkenny, and online at mcgees.ie. With the best, cost less.
All you need to make your house a home at Patterson's The Hall Lifford. From garden furniture to kitchens, sofas and dining sets, all under one roof. Need a new mattress? Why not visit our sleep centre on the first floor? With a large range of quality beds and mattresses in stock and ready for collection or delivery. Relax in our coffee shop serving hot lunches daily. Open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Patterson's Kitchens and Interiors, The Hall Lifford.
There's still time to book that holiday to France with Stena Line. Travel Rosslare to Cherbourg from €199 one way, car and driver. Travel in comfort at a time that suits you, with more sailings to France and Britain than ever before. Book now at stenaline.ie. Wherever you're going, enjoy getting there with Stena Line.
Join the Highland Radio outside broadcast team this Wednesday afternoon from 2:40 at Letterkenny Credit Union for their first car draw of the year. 2 lucky Letterkenny Credit Union members will each win a brand new Renault Capture. A number of cash prizes will also be given away. So tune in this Wednesday from 2:40 to hear if you're a winner with Letterkenny Credit Union.
Okay, you're welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Now, I had a contact earlier on or overnight from a listener who is a young mum and was considering joining OnlyFans. Some of you texting in, not necessarily in support of it. A young mother joining OnlyFans, that's a real good example to set for your children and society in general. Why not better yourself and your prospects by doing an online course to improve your chances of a better job instead of that nonsense, they say. A lot of money in it, though. That OnlyFans text typifies the attitude of today's youth. Sell your soul to make a quick buck. What happened to hard work, decency and modesty? Terrible decision to do that. Anything online is, they say, online forever. And you can keep your calls and comments coming in on that. A caller says this country, or should I say this government and the electricity companies, don't give a damn about these people who are saving this country millions by taking care of their own at home. It's all about money. It's true saying the rich get richer and the poor don't get poorer, but now they tramp on them. Why the hell are the people of this country putting up with all this crap from this government and companies? Well, what do you expect people to do? That being said, it is the case that after the last budget, the rich did get somewhat richer, or at least somewhat better off, and the poor pretty much stayed where they were, or at least the gap between the two widened, is what a recent report has shown. Diesel and petrol has taken a big jump this week again. What's the reason this time, and why is no one talking about it? Well, you are, and you're opening the conversation. That's what we're all about here. And the prices vary greatly all over the place. It really is remarkable how the prices can vary from one area to another. Okay, we've got still loads to come on the show. As you can imagine, it is the 9 till noon show. We're going to take a break now for the news and the obituary notices, but stay right where you are. We'll be back with much more in just a few moments.
The 9 till noon show brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Donegal Down Syndrome.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €3 million. Play responsibly in store, in app, or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Teagasc are holding a Better Farm Hill Sheep Farm Walk on the farm of Paul Boyle, Tymeen, Letterbarrow, County Donegal, F94VW74. This Thursday, 24th of August at 6:30 p.m. Focus on store lamb options and preparing for breeding. All are welcome.
Have I got news for you? The Harvey's Point Cabaret is back. Every Wednesday in September and October, Eamon has gathered a galaxy of stars to captivate and entertain. A scrumptious dinner, fabulous entertainment, or a 2-night accommodation package. Harvey's Point Cabaret, 074 972 2208 for an immediate reservation, or harveyspoint.com.
Bundoran presents Ireland's biggest indoor dancing festival, the World Matchmaking Festival, in 4 venues for 10 days, 10 nights, September 29th to October 8th. Starring 35 bands including Tumbling Paddies, Derek Ryan, David James, Declan Nerney, plus Blind Date and Speed Dating. Book now for accommodation and entertainment package deals. Log on to showtours.ie or call Show Tours on 0818 300 888. Meet your match in Bundoran.
Charlie McClafferty Funeral Directors, serving Letterkenny and the surrounding areas for over 100 years. Charlie McClafferty Funeral Directors. Let our family take care of your family and guide you through a difficult time.
Enjoy family fun this Sunday at the Northwest Truck Fest at Milford Mart with Truckfest Ted, live music and presentation of the Decky Holian and George Tracy Memorial Trophies. This ad is sponsored by Cranford Store, 9155 633.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. New evidence has emerged in relation to the killing of Donegal man Michael Leonard in 1973. The 24-year-old was shot dead by the RUC near the Donegal-Fermanagh border. Donna Marie Doherty has more.
Following specific requests under the Freedom of Information Act by paper trail, the British Ministry of Defence has supplied the family with new evidence which was not disclosed to them nor the coroner at the original inquest into Michael Leonard's death nearly half a century ago. The MOD has admitted that the General Officer commanding the British Army in Northern Ireland was informed the day after the shooting that the RUC deliberately targeted and killed Michael Leonard. The new evidence also includes a secret briefing to Lieutenant General Sir Frank King, who was General Officer commanding. The RUC lied to the family, the coroner and the Irish government, alleging that they accidentally killed Michael with only one shot, but now the belief is that he was shot 3 times, with the 3rd shot fatally wounding him.
The Justice Minister says the facts of what happened at the Ironman in Cork need to be established so it never happens again. There are now conflicting statements about how the event, during which 2 men died, went ahead. Triathlon Ireland says its technical officials reviewed the conditions and deemed them unsuitable. Now the organisers say that wasn't communicated to them until the swimming part was over. Helen McEntee says it's a huge tragedy.
I know my constituency colleague Thomas Byrne has asked Sport Ireland to engage with Triathlon Ireland to provide whatever assistance is necessary, but I also know that the Gardaí are preparing a file for the City Coroner, and I don't think it'd be appropriate to say much more other than I think for the families, for their own communities, it is so important that we get to the bottom of what happened here and that it never happens again.
The number of pubs in Ireland has fallen by more than 1/5 since 2005. Latest figures show 108 pubs closed last year, with an average of 152 closing each year since 2019. In Donegal, 33 pubs closed within the past year, while 119 shut their doors in the county since 2005. President of the Vintners Federation of Ireland, John Clendenin, says that more investment is needed to help protect pubs.
Really what it comes down to is commercial sustainability, and realistically if you look at a pub and what it provides, really it's a cultural and social pillar of any community. From a cultural perspective, trying to encourage tourism, trying to attract people, and then socially, I suppose from a community perspective, it creates a sense of cohesion and social capital in towns and villages right across the country.
Motorists have been left frustrated, facing multiple sets of traffic lights within a 6-kilometre route in East Donegal. Between Lifford and Liscully, one set of temporary traffic lights are in place to facilitate Uisce Éireann works, while 3 additional sets are in operation as works to construct a greenway from Lifford are carried out. This has led to lengthy tailbacks in the area daily. Councillor Patrick McGuyan says he has raised the matter with the council and hopes the traffic management in place will be reviewed.
Spoke to the local engineers and they agreed immediately that that is not the norm and that is not something that drivers would be expected to put up with, and it's just not acceptable. They're going to speak to the people in charge down there and on the greenway. You can't reduce the Irish water contractors down there, like they've just one site, so we will be looking to reduce where the greenway has been built. They have reduced that down to 1 or 2, but certainly not 3. Hopefully they'll come up with a solution today or tomorrow.
A driver with an outstanding bench warrant has been arrested after being caught speeding in Donegal. Gardaí from the Donegal Town Roads Policing Unit detected the vehicle travelling at 123 km per hour in a 100 km per hour speed zone yesterday. The vehicle was stopped, and through the use of the active mobility device, it was established that there was a bench warrant in existence for the motorist. They were arrested and are expected to appear in court. 2 men have been charged to court following the seizure of drugs in Derry yesterday. The men aged 30 and 18 have been charged with offences including possession of a Class B controlled drug, intent to supply and possession of a Class A controlled drug. The 30-year-old is due to appear in court today, while a date of September the 13th has been set for the 18-year-old. All charges will be reviewed by the Public Prosecution Service. Weather now today, there will be scattered showers and occasional bright or sunny spells. Highest temperatures of 16 to 18 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
The obituary notices this Wednesday morning, August 23rd. The death has taken place of Mandy Mitchell, Glasson Carrigart. His remains are reposing at the residence of his nephew Danny next door. Funeral from there tomorrow, going to the Church of St John the Baptist for Requiem Mass at 11 a.m, with interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The death has taken place of Angus Callaghan, 118 Laurel Drive, Strabane, and formerly of Sion Mills, reposing at his home. Funeral leaving his home tomorrow morning at 9:20 a.m. for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 10 a.m. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers please to the Alzheimer's Society, care of Quigley's funeral directors. Family time please from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Paddy Joe Brogan, Rockhill, Dunfanaghy. Wake is taking place at his home. Funeral Mass in the Holy Cross Church, Dunfanaghy tomorrow morning at 11 a.m, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Mass can be viewed live on mcnmedia.tv. The death has taken place of Sheila McGinty ní Sharkey of Dunlewy. Her remains are reposing at her home. House private this morning. Funeral Mass this morning at 11 a.m. in the Church of the Sacred Heart, Dunlewy, with interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on Kieran Rorty Funeral Director's Facebook page. The death has taken place of Gerlie Gallagher ní Drain, 22 Muckish Avenue, Letterkenny, reposing at her late residence with Rosary tonight at 9 p.m. Family time, please, on the morning of the funeral. Funeral from there tomorrow, going to St Eunan's Cathedral for 2 p.m. Requiem Mass, which can be viewed live on churchservices.tv, followed by burial in the family plot in Conwall Cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations, if wished, to the Donegal Hospice care of Pascal Blake, Funeral Director. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
As Ireland's newest energy supplier, what are UNO Energy bringing to the party? For starters, an app that lets you see how much energy you're using, so you know where to cut down and save. And on top of that, you can save up to €508 per year compared to our other suppliers' standard rates. It means when you join our party, you know you're with the right one. Visit unoenergy.ie. Comparing UNO discount fixed rate EAB €1,765 and the average of our other supplier standard rates as per CRU July EAB report. Supplier pricing may change. T's and C's apply.
The county's number one talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Now, there's going to be a rush, excuse me, there's going to be a rush on Friday morning as people seek to have their name in the hat for €2,500 because as part of Highland Radio's Summer Cash draw, €2,500 in cash will be given away on Friday. We're going to give another €2,500 away the following Friday, and on that Friday, that's Friday week, someone's going to win £10,000. Well, it's not pounds, it's euro, but they're going to win it anyway. So there is €15,000 to be won over the course of the next 2 Fridays. If you want to make sure that you don't get caught up in the rush and you get your ticket, so if you're going to get one, get it now and get it out of the way. You'll be in 3 draws for a total of €15,000. You can go onto our website, highlandradio.com, and enter there. It's perfectly safe and secure. If you prefer to give us a ring, Katie will help process your entry on 07491 25,000, or if you don't have access to a card and you prefer to do it in cash, call up to us here, Mountain Top, Letterkenny. But you have a couple of days to be in all 3 draws. It's €10 per ticket. There are discounts if you buy more tickets, and of course only enter if you can afford to, and play it for a bit of fun. But as I say, you know, this is not one of those big national, international competitions. This is for us here, primarily in the Northwest. It's a Northwest person most likely to win it, and the odds are more favourable than you might see elsewhere. So if you're going to enter, I suggest you do so now. So A, you're in all 3 draws, but B, you don't miss a potential rush on Friday. 07491 25,000 to buy it over the phone. But the easiest and handiest way for you is to go to our website, highlandradio.com. There's a simple way of fixing the problem. This is NCTS going cashless. There's a simple way of fixing this problem by having to pay upfront for NCT. No one paid. They can't jail everyone for no NCT. Problem solved. People need to stand up. But you see, that's all well and good, and we get those calls on various issues from time to time. But the reality is that not everyone's going to do that. Not everyone's prepared to risk jail. Not everyone's prepared to face the massive fines that could be handed to them and the penalty points. So I get where you're coming from. Look at the amount of people that are getting fined and jailed for other things, and no one really even knows it's happening. These people are thinking they're making a big stand, but the reality is no one knows it's happening at all. So maybe political pressure might help. I don't know what would resolve the situation. Good morning, Greg. The government hit the public with minimum pricing for alcohol, and the pubs never pushed back. They saw money. Then they decided to hike up prices twice since the minimum pricing, so they shot themselves in the foot. It's a rich man's game now, going out for a drink. €4 is enough for a pint, they say. Thank you for that. Hi, Greg. You're asking, are we paying high electricity prices, or why are we paying high electricity prices? It all comes down to our government. They have the power to stop the rip-off. But as usual, this caller believes they don't care. Good morning, Greg. As a shop worker, I've seen a huge increase in the amount of people coming to the till buying basic food, and their card is being declined, and some who are confident enough to ask to take off a thing or two so they can pay. But I see now people are going to the self-service till to save the embarrassment if their card is declined. What worries me is if this is happening now, what's the winter going to be like? this is a really insightful message from a listener. They work in a shop. More and more they're seeing cards being declined at the till, and people are going, right, well, I'll get rid of this or I'll get rid of that, try that now, or going to a self-service till to save the embarrassment if their card is declined. That's always going to be there because people are in different circumstances, but this shop worker is seeing an increase in it. And of course, we can also couple that with a huge increase in the access to food banks across Donegal. And we're going to do a check-in with them again soon, because that's an issue I don't want us to forget about either. There's fantastic people working in the food bank network right across Donegal. The last time we spoke to them, they'd seen a huge increase in the amount of people accessing their services, a huge increase in the amount of working people accessing their services, a huge increase in people that are not just coming to their services once because a bill came out or something, but are relying on them on a more regular basis. And I think it's something we need to keep an eye on if we're truly going to be representative of the lives everyone's leading out there. Hi, Greg. My father had an oxygen... I beg your pardon. My father had an oxygen machine in the house, not the oxygen bottles. It was incredibly expensive to run. We ended up using the oxygen bottles for some hours every day to save some money, electricity used by the machine. My father was on oxygen 24/7 for many years. He received a large machine that was plugged in and when powered up, converted room air into oxygen. A long tube from the machine delivered oxygen to him. The tube was long enough that he could walk around with it. The electricity bill skyrocketed, way more than doubled. We ended up asking for more oxygen tanks to be delivered, use those during the day, and the machine only at night to keep the costs down a bit. Wow, that's really interesting, because the lady we were speaking to at the end of the programme does have a relative in the house that is on an oxygen machine, and her bill tripled. And in this person's experience, they had an oxygen machine and their bill more than doubled, to the point where they were getting oxygen tanks to try and mitigate that somewhat. That's really interesting. And again, it does beg the question, should someone who's, obviously caring for their loved one and having them at home surrounded by loved ones, should they be penalised? Is there not a scheme whereby there can be some sort of electricity credit if these machines are so expensive to run? Anyone, any further insight into that, please get in touch with us, 086 60 25,000, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. OK, we're going to take a break now.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Wednesday, the 23rd of August. You're playing on the blue sheet. The reference number is S8. It's game number 34. The numbers are 29, 15, 4, 8, 30, 34, 71, 26, 42, and finally 67. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Exam results arriving? Your career starts with Northwest Regional College. On the day your exam results arrive, come along to your local Derry, Londonderry, Strabane or Limavady campus to apply for a course or confirm your place. Choose from our wide range of apprenticeships, level 3 diplomas, foundation degrees and so much more. For information, visit nwrc.ac.uk/results. Northwest Regional College. From here to career.
It's the Northwest Truck Fest at Milford Mart this weekend. Highlights include Truck Lights display on Saturday at 9, and on Sunday it's the convoy of trucks through Milford at 5. This ad is sponsored by K&F Superwools, 9139043.
Your specialty is quality tiles, bathroom suites and wooden floors. Who has the best range of tiles in Donegal?
Crawford Tiles.
The best wood flooring?
Crawford Tiles.
The best bathroom suites?
Crawford Tiles.
5-day bathroom refits?
Crawford Tiles.
And who's been tampering with my questions?
That'll be me.
Crawford Tiles, Castlefin. That'll be them. 07491 43942.
It's the 9 till noon show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart, with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
Okay, you're welcome back to the programme. We welcome on to it award-winning investigative journalist Jennifer O'Leary, who is the author of a new book, The Padre, which is the remarkable true story of the Irish priest who armed the IRA with Gaddafi's money. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg. Thank you for having me on.
This is one of those stories that is so remarkable and so present that many might perhaps not believe it's true until they read the book and familiarise themselves with the story.
Yes, I mean, it is an incredible story, one that I'm very mindful carries, a lot of tragic consequences for so many people who were affected by the violence of the Troubles, and in particular IRA bombing atrocities. But it's a story about a man called Patrick Ryan, who grew up on a small farm in the hills of County Tipperary. He was born in 1930, and he's one of 6 children. And in 1944, he joins a junior seminary in the town of Thurles, the Palatine Order. He's 14 years of age at the time, and 3 years later, he formally becomes a priest in training. And what happens is that Patrick Ryan, who intended to work as a priest for the rest of his life, bear in mind that in 1954, he is dispatched following his ordination to East Africa, where the Palatines had missions in Tanganyika, later renamed Tanzania, when that part of the world gained its independence from Britain. But he's a missionary priest in the 1950s, for a large part of the 1950s and the 1960s in East Africa. And even that part of his story alone kind of demonstrates the character of Patrick Ryan, because while he's there, he is more interested in building schools and building clinics than, as he put it, standing around with a catechism in his hand all day. And he also learns to fly a 2-seater plane so he can deliver medicine between clinics. So on the face of it, he has this period of his life where he is doing good. And as he sees it, he would have stayed there, only he grew tired of a bishop that he was reporting to, who wanted to learn how to fly a plane, and he returns back to Ireland for a time in the 60s. And that's where the course of his life changes, and in turn the course of many other people's lives as a result of his actions down the years changes, because he is at that stage in 1969, in the early 1970s, he's going around Ireland. He's collecting money from the mission boxes. You'd see them nowadays still in some petrol stations, I'm sure, in parts of Donegal. I saw one up there recently. He is collecting that money, and instead of delivering it to his superiors in Tipperary for the missions in East Africa, he is handing it over to Irish Republicans, to what became the Provisional IRA in 1969. And he is doing so because he has a deeply held belief in Irish nationalism, in militant nationalism.
And was that something he was born with or reared with, or are there events in his life that hardened his resolve in his opinions?
That's a really good question, Greg, because that kind of goes to the heart of his upbringing. In Tipperary, in the small farm, his mother, Mary Ann Ryan, she in 1920, as a teenager, she used to stand guard outside her family home in Tipperary to keep, to stand on guard, if you like, against the boots of the black and tans, because some of those who were fighting in the Irish War of Independence used to take refuge in her family home. So she was very much an Irish nationalist. She used to tell her children as they grew up the stories of lore that what she did during the Irish War of Independence. And that instilled a deep nationalism in Patrick Ryan, and also clearly the Ireland of his time was one where, it was dominated by the Catholic Church. So there's that soldering of nationalism and Catholicism that kind of forms his identity.
But still, the story is gets even more remarkable, because how does he find himself as a go-between between the Provisional IRA and Gaddafi? Because that, and then of course being able to retain that position and to avoid arrest, and he was very much wanted through periods of his life. I mean, to get to that position, because there has to be an awful lot of trust, I presume, involved, and you have to prove yourself and what have you. I mean, that is truly remarkable.
Absolutely. I mean, his superiors in the early 1970s wanted him to return to a then parish in East London, or, to return to his missionary work, in effect. And in short, he turned his back on them. He walked away. He had grown more involved with what the IRA were doing and trying to progress their war as they saw it. And in 1972, he meets Joe Cahill, who was then a senior IRA man in Belfast, and he, along with Joe Cahill, he meets them in Rome. They fly to Tripoli in Libya, where the IRA have set up a supply route between Gaddafi and themselves. I mean, Muammar Gaddafi is somebody who saw the IRA as comrades in arms fighting British imperialism. His regime has promised the IRA 100 tons of arms and equipment. Now, there's an earlier flight in 1972 where a number of rocket-propelled grenades and warheads are delivered to Shannon Airport. But the IRA needs a ship. So they hire a coaster called the Claudia from a German man called Gunther Leinhauser. So Patrick Ryan, he goes to Tripoli along with Joe Cahill as part of the arrangement to prepare for this shipment. But unbeknownst to all of them at the time, the IRA are expecting 100 tons of shipment. So too is British intelligence, because they have been tracking the Claudia for 7 months. So the book kind of details the background to that operation, why the ship was compromised. But in short, Joe Cahill decides in Tripoli that when he gets back to Ireland, he is going to assign Patrick Ryan, Father Patrick Ryan, this priest, this former priest. Bear in mind, he had no parish at that stage to attend to, but he is going to make him his man between the IRA and the Libyan regime. And Patrick Ryan agrees to do that. But there is one condition that a number of conditions, but they are very specific, and they kind of go to the core of his character. He will work for the IRA, but he won't join the IRA. And if he deems that some of the money that he is funneling from the Libyan regime is being misdirected or misused in any such way, he will walk away from the Irish Republican Army. So what I mean about it's going to the core of his character.
But why with everything that he was involved in, with everything he has his fingerprints on or is responsible for, why was membership of the organisation a step too far?
Well, as he put it, he told a senior IRA man in a meeting in a Dublin suburb as part of this discussion about him taking on this role. Seamus Toomey, was perplexed as to why won't you join the IRA? And Patrick Ryan's retort was, I joined the Catholic Church. That was enough.
Right. Now, people need to read the book, because I'm sort of jumping around, and it's a fascinating insight. And I think too, also what it does, Jennifer, you talked about that surveillance operation on the ship. People will remember that, but this timelines it and gives more of a background to it and how it all came about, and other events presumably through history as well. But just in relation to the man himself, I mean, he's still alive. He's 93. You spoke to him as part of putting this book together? Has he any regrets? Do we learn anything in that regard?
I think this part of his character and this part of the story is what will, shock people and will what cause, I suppose, a lot more pain to other people who are living with the trauma of loss. Patrick Ryan has no regrets about what he did. And in short, he re-engineered a timing device that went on to become a hallmark of IRA bombs. It was used in scores of bombings from the mid-1970s onwards. He has no regrets about what he did. In fact, he said that he wishes he could have been more effective. And I think that is something that, it's put quite bluntly. It's what he believes in. And he's quite open about that.
Mm. And is what was obviously whilst he no longer was a priest, like, is he a devout Catholic? Is he a religious person? And if so, how do those two parts of his life sit together?
Well, his faith and where he stands on it, is, Greg, it is intriguing. And I expect it's something that a lot of listeners will have a view on because, as a priest, of course, he was expected to counsel his congregation on aspects of virtue and sin and adhere to the teachings of the Catholic Church. This is something that I kind of went back to him a number of times in the long conversations that I would have with him. And did he have a strong faith? Does he have a strong faith? And he's quite opaque on it, but he did, as a young man, training to become a priest, he said that he supposes at that stage that he must have had. But he still is quite, he's kind of unclear in terms of whether that was something that he truly believed. But what absolutely defines his life, he said he had a definition of his own, and it was following his own path. Mm-hmm. So one would have to question, a man with such, possessed with such self-assurance and such confidence to apply himself to whatever he turns his attention to. Would he really adhere to any structure, I guess, in his life?
For the majority of the population, as maybe the memories of the horrors of what the Troubles brought fade, and I don't mean those who were directly affected by it. Are you concerned that with him being so resolute in sticking to his guns about what he did, what he was responsible for, and why he did it, do you have any concerns that in some way that you're platforming him, that, that a lot of people might go, well, you know what? He believed in what he believed. He still believes what he believes. Do you know what I mean? And I say, particularly in the context as maybe the horrible memories for the general population of the Troubles fade, that in some way this might make him seem like a hero to some.
Well, I really have to stress that the book is written thoughtfully. It's contextualized. I am very mindful of the hurt and the broken hearts left behind on account of the actions of Patrick Ryan and many others. I am a journalist. It's my job to find stories, and sometimes stories are difficult to hear and difficult for a lot of people to listen to. But it's a part of Irish history. He did play a significant role in the IRA's war, if you like, against the British. His story was largely unknown for a long time. Yes, when he was arrested in 1988 in Belgium and extradited, and the Belgians refused to extradite him to London and flew him back on a military plane, avoiding British airspace, he would have been part of the news agenda then. But, a large part of his story was untold. And it's important to put down a record of people's stories and, people who read the book will make their own judgments about Patrick Ryan, will make their own judgments about what he did and why he did it. But it's my role to tell stories and to be fair and to apply rigor when doing so.
Yeah, okay. And finally, can you frame the book? Because I don't want to detract from what is a very important piece of work if I've jumped around with my questions a little bit. So in the last minute or two, Jennifer, maybe just outline the story, what the reader experience will be, what they might learn, what they might discover that they didn't know before, and if you do that for us.
Well, the book outlines the story of this Irish priest who, in effect, was a fixer for the IRA across Europe, as well as in Libya, and the extent that he of his involvement, with its campaign of terror across Europe, Britain and Ireland, from being that trusted link man between the IRA and Gaddafi, to his involvement in improving. And I say that kind of mindfully, IRA explosive devices that almost assassinated the British Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher. I mean, it's the story of a man, who was supposed to be a priest, and who decades on is unrepentant about his ruthless zealotry, I suppose is the best way of describing it, in pursuit of money, weapons and assistance for the IRA.
And Jennifer, can I ask finally, if it's fair, what's your view on him, having spoken to him, or how would you? Is it easy for you as a not as a journalist or as an author, but as someone who's listened to him, spoken to him? How could you, or how would you characterise him?
I suppose his character, Greg, he's very careful in what he says and what he does. He's alert intellectually. He's 93 now. He's always watching and listening. He's very personable. I mean, I have long experienced, seeing him being quite charming and being kind to, people in coffee shops or hotels or wherever I would meet him. Mm-hmm. And he carries himself, it's quite striking, with the self-assurance of somebody who measures success as how they overcome a problem, whether that's someone or something. He is an intriguing character, and it was my role to listen to him, to keep asking him questions and to challenge him over what he did. And the Padre, outlines his life story, which intersects with, these pivotal stages of Irish history, that Catholicism that formed, that emerged in the wake of Irish independence, different parts of Irish history, the Troubles, Ireland's membership of what was then the European Economic Community, and how all these different things that happen geopolitically and how they corral at times Patrick Ryan on his path.
Okay, Jennifer, thank you so much for all of your time this morning. I really do appreciate it. Jennifer O'Leary there, author of The Padre, the true story of the Irish priest who armed the IRA with Gaddafi's money. It's available from all the usual places you would expect to see it. It's a significant read. I like the text and the background, and might get round to having a run through that. And that's more the fact that I'm not a big reader, not the subject matter at all. Okay, Jennifer O'Leary there, author of The Padre. It's an interesting story, and he is still alive.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Join the Highland Radio outside broadcast team this Wednesday afternoon from 2:40 at Letterkenny Credit Union for their first car draw of the year. 2 lucky Letterkenny Credit Union members will each win a brand new Renault Capture. A number of cash prizes will also be given away. So tune in this Wednesday from 2:40 to hear if you're a winner with Letterkenny Credit Union.
A public interest message from Donegal County Council. Householders and building owners in areas susceptible to wildfires are advised to cut back or remove any vegetation or other combustible material in the vicinity of their house, building or oil tank to prevent wildfires damaging or destroying their property. Cleared areas should be maintained free of vegetation and combustible material. Donegal County Council would like to remind landowners and members of the public that under the Wildlife Act 1976 and 2000, it is an offence to cut, grub, burn or otherwise destroy any vegetation growing on any land not then cultivated between the 1st day of March and the 31st day of August in any year. Landowners are also reminded that under the Waste Management Regulations 2023, the burning of agricultural waste is currently prohibited. Donegal County Council, protecting your environment.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
Did you know there are more places than ever to top up your TFI Leap card? Well, now you do. You can buy and top up TFI Leap cards in over 2,500 agents, including all post offices. You can also top up your TFI Leap card with the Leap Top Up app on iPhone and Android. And remember, young adult and student Leap cards can only be ordered online. To download the app and find your nearest agent, go to leapcard.ie.
The 9 till noon show brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Donegal Down Syndrome.
Okay, have you heard of O'Doherty's Keep in Buncrana? You perhaps, I'm sure you most likely have heard of it if you are from Buncrana or the wider Inishowen area, but even across the region, you might have seen it popping up on social media or in newspapers. We're joined by Dara Fury, who's an auctioneer in Buncrana and who is handling the sale of O'Doherty's Keep. Good morning to you, Dara.
How you doing, Greg? Are you well?
I'm doing good, Dara. Good to speak to you. Can I start from the beginning and perhaps you might let our listeners know what O'Doherty's Keep actually is?
So O'Doherty's Keep is it's a building in Buncrana. If you've ever walked through Swans Park, you come across the Castle Bridge and you come down then as if you're heading up to the beach and you'll see it's like a keep. So it's like a 3-story stone building on your left-hand side. It's the founding point of Buncrana. So it's there since about the 1200s, and Buncrana was built from there. It's a very historical building, so it's associated with the O'Doherty clan. It was burned in 1608 by the Crown forces in retaliation for Cahir O'Doherty's sacking and raising Derry. And Wolf Tone was held there at a stage before he was sent and tried for treason in Dublin. So it's one of these buildings that has. There are many of them in Donegal, but this one in particular has so much history, sort of locally, nationally, and in relation to the O'Doherty clan as well.
Now, this came into the ownership of the current owners relatively recently. So what has their sort of responsibility been since then in terms of, I suppose, what they have done to spend on it, on the project more generally, but and why they feel the need they must sell now?
Okay, so just to backtrack a wee bit, the current owners inherited it from their father's estate in 2017, but their family actually owned it since 1969. It belonged to an English guy then who was kind of looking to get out of Ireland in 1969 for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. And so he wanted to pass it on to Irish somebody, and they came to own it then. And then they inherited it in 2017 from their father's estate. So they decided that they would move and, try and do something with it, maybe make it into like a tourist attraction or, a visitor centre for the O'Doherty clan or something like that. So they've spent a lot of money between now and then. They spent about 150,000, investigating, doing feasibility studies and all that type of stuff. And they've gone through and they've basically just, they're at their wits' end because they can't get the thing funded. They've exhausted all options. They've tried everywhere. And they're of an age now where they're inclined to try and pass it on to somebody who one, might have the money, and two, might have the energy for it. And that doesn't seem to be public money, unfortunately, It's just public money doesn't seem to be coming that way, despite the fact that the Department of Culture, Heritage and the Gaeltacht have offered their support, and I will say in principle, they've offered their support for the plan, but it doesn't seem to be happening,
And there's been, some suggestions locally of fundraising to try and keep it in local or public ownership. So there is an appetite. The locals and the wider community see the benefit of this and the importance that this is sort of retained. Is there a fear that, when something goes onto the open market, someone might buy it and it could end up on, I don't know, some sort of a TV show being converted into a family home or something? Is that a possibility? Is that a concern?
I don't know if that's a concern. My personal opinion is that all these buildings, because let's be honest, Donegal is so full of history, it's unbelievable, and that history is a monetizable thing. If it was done properly, they should all really be in public ownership. But unfortunately, I think nationally we're just not set up for that type of there is a will in Donegal to do these things.
We seem to only be able to find money to stop things deteriorating. Even that might not be no harm, but not to actually develop or, properly retain our heritage and history.
Yeah, like if you had for example, this is just off the top of my head, like the castles and the old buildings of Donegal, something like the Inishowen 100 or the Wild Atlantic Way, there's an immediate tourist attraction that people would come and see from all over the world, But I'm not bashing Donegal itself, because I think the will is there within Donegal to do all these things. This is a national problem. Ireland, they talk about the wealth in Ireland and how much money we have and all that type of stuff, but they're not funding things like this, So whose fault is that? I'm sure it's not my fault. It's not your fault, Greg. I think it's a national problem.
Has this been a difficult?
I don't know what your opinion is.
Yeah, I just think we need to be spending money in the right places, and we need to be retaining and developing. Because this is who we are. We can have multinationals and that's all fantastic, and we can do all fancy modern things, but for ourselves and our history, but also for visitors, these are the things that interest people. This is who we are from where we came. Has this been a difficult time for the current owners, in that feeling the need to have to speak publicly to explain decisions that have been made? Because, of course, they've been going through it themselves in trying to, as you say, source funding, get interest from certain bodies and what have you. And now they're finding themselves sort of having to explain, pretty private information as to where they're at.
Yeah, well, when they came to me, they said, Dara, we're on the business. We're in the main street 40 years in Buncrana, so we understand the locality. We love Inishowen, we love Donegal, all that type of stuff. He says, will you try and sell this for us? And, straight away I could see the emotion in them and how much they loved the project and how much they loved the O'Doherty clan and, all this type of stuff. But at the same time, they're at their wits' end, and, they couldn't make it happen, and it hasn't happened, and now they're hoping to pass it on to somebody else. And when they said to me, will you have a think about it? Because you have to understand as well, like as an auctioneer, my primary job is to sell the thing for them, I'm not a historian, but I do have a kind heart for that type of stuff as well, But like I said to them straight off, I would say it's 150 to 1 shot that public money will buy this, because it's just not set up for it. And that's not unkind. That's just the mechanisms just aren't there, for them to buy it. So what we're really looking for is a private buyer who has a kind heart, who will buy it. And you are right in what you say. There is a worry that it would fall into the wrong hands. So we do, which is unusual for an auction scenario. Anybody who's seriously interested, we're going through an interview process where we're talking to them personally just to see where they're at and see what they think.
What kind of...
Because you want it to go into the right hands.
Yeah, it's early enough in that process. Have you had any interest in it? And are you getting a sense what, in the market out there, the type of buyer that might be inclined to go for something like this? Or is it too soon?
So we have that. So we've had probably about 10 or 15 inquiries.
Right.
But 3 or 4 of them are serious, all from America, and all who have the name Doherty or O'Doherty or Dougherty, it's spelled differently. All with that name, We have an interest expressed from the council. Jack Marty was involved in that, so he's doing a bit of work on that in the background. We don't know where that's going or whether anything will happen on that. But I personally don't think it will, because I'm not bashing the council in any shape or form. I just think they don't have the mechanism to buy these things,
That's a really interesting point. And can I ask Dara, is it how much public money would it take to secure this? Is that I don't know if that interferes with the process that you're going through.
The price. If you wanted to buy this, it would cost 175,000 euro.
That's not much,
right?
Is it?
And they could buy that. The project, all the 150,000 that has been spent already, feasibility studies and all this there. The project for doing a visitor centre and having it up and running as a tourist attraction would cost $500,000. So you're looking at probably around, somewhere between 5 and 750 to get the thing going, which
it's not given its
you're getting up in the money.
But given its
historical importance,
it's not
priceless.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. All right, okay, because you think people, little items in our history that are in museums that cost way more than that and perhaps don't have the same history. But anyway, okay, Dara, listen, thanks for that. I don't want to let you go without asking, if you don't mind, as a business person in Buncrana, there is an important meeting taking place in Buncrana today about the scrapping of free parking in the town. What is this? The meeting we talked about last week? Who's involved in this meeting, and what's the nature of it?
So the county council are holding a meeting in the Inishowen Gateway today from 12 to 5. And I don't know if you know the way parking works in Buncrana. You get 30 minutes free at the start, and then the warden comes and he ticks you, and then you can. And they're talking about abolishing this 30 minutes in order to make more money so they can do more things for Buncrana. I would argue, I pay my rates. I'm on the main street. We're here 40 years. And you see when somebody comes in, even with the 30 minutes, they stand and they spend the whole time looking out the door, ready to run out in case they see the warden, you know what I mean? So, why would you make it worse on them, So I have to say, I'm very much against that, and I would say, I know there are different views on the main street, and I don't judge anybody for their views, but I would say the vast, maybe 90-95% of people would be against the abolition of that.
I can see how it raises revenue. I can't see. I've yet to hear a convincing argument that it would actually be good for business in freeing up spaces or a different type of clientele, or I've not heard a convincing argument yet that paying for parking from the get-go in some ways good for business. Now, as I say, I am open to have my mind changed on everything, but I've not heard a convincing argument yet that this is anything other than a revenue-making exercise to gather money, albeit to be spent in the local area. But have you heard an argument that is...
The other thing, if it raises revenue, Greg, where is the revenue spent? Buncrana Main Street, Buncrana is a beautiful town and everything looks well and people do their best to keep it, but, a lot of more money could be spent, and I don't believe that, if the businesses struggle more because cars can't park, then that's, because of the extra few pound, and I'm on Buncrana Main Street all day, every day. You're not talking about a massive amount of money here, with the cars parking. I don't see how that's going to improve the situation. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm open to hear other views, but I don't know.
Okay, right. Well, Dara, listen, that meeting, tell us where it is. I think it's important as many people with whatever views they have go along to it. So just remind us of the time and location, please, Dara.
It's in the Inishowen Gateway today from 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And what this is the situation that I'm hoping to won't arise. You don't want the council to say we held a public meeting. Nobody turned up, therefore there was no interest, so we're just going to go ahead and do it anyway. So if you are in the town and you're passing the gateway, call in and give your opinion, whatever your opinion is, because the more people give their opinion, the more things can be done.
Yeah, really, really important point. Dara, thanks for touching on both issues. I do appreciate it. It's just while I had you, I wanted to ask you about the second one. Dara Fury, who is an auctioneer in Buncrana.
It's the 9 till noon show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart, with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
A public interest message from Donegal County Council. Attention farmers. Donegal County Council would like to advise farmers of some key messages about water quality at this time of year. Check that all silage effluent is collected in a properly sealed storage tank and not entering waters. Before spreading slurry, farmers and contractors should pay particular attention to the weather forecast and ground conditions to avoid applying it to land which is waterlogged, flooded, likely to flood, or if rain is forecast within 48 hours. Remember, slurry and fertilizers lost by overland flow to waters is a loss of vital nutrients for your crops. Donegal County Council, protecting your environment.
Attention one and all. Easy Living Furniture is turning 25 and we're celebrating with an amazing anniversary sale this bank holiday weekend. Join us for our biggest sale ever, and with free delivery on all orders over £500, this is one sale not to miss. But hurry, as this amazing sale must end soon. Visit Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park. Easy Living Furniture, making homes great since 1998.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
Getting married. Men's wedding suit packages are now 20% off. Book before August 31st. Evolve Clothing. Letterkenny Retail Park. Terms and conditions apply.
Don't miss the Northwest Truck Fest taking place this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart. Enjoy a truckload of fun with live music, a truck lights display and much more. This ad is sponsored by Donegal Oil, 9121633.
Now, Danny Quigley is swimming the length of the foil to celebrate the lives who have died by suicide and also to raise money for mental health charities. Money raised will go to Foyle Search and Rescue and the Bogside and Brandywell Health Forum. And Danny joins us on the programme now. Thank you so much for your time, Danny. You're 2 days into the swim, is that correct? Hello, Danny, are you there? No, I've lost Danny, Caroline. We might hold him off to after 11, if that's okay, because it's going to be too short otherwise. Is that all right? Can I play a couple of requests while I have an opportunity, please? And by the way, we welcome your requests and dedications into the show. Happy 40th wedding anniversary to Breed and Patrick Kelly in Killygordon. That comes in from Patricia and Tony Gallen and family. Happy 54th birthday to Andrea McCobb in Rafo from a friend in Ballyshannon. Tommy McNutt is working in the post office in Letterkenny. He's retiring today after 42 years of service. Well done, Tommy. What a fantastic shift you've put in there. It's also your 60th birthday today, so happy birthday, Tommy. All the best from all your friends and colleagues. I'd say you have some amazing stories to tell and how things have changed as well. I've spotted now a electric post van. That's some change, isn't it? Seeing them around the place now. Don't know how they work. Any whistleblowers? Not that it's controversial. Any of you working in the post service that are using the new electric vehicles? How's it going for you? Are you enjoying it? Hi, Greg. Went to my local fuel station this morning to get some drums filled with kerosene, but I was shocked to find the price had gone up from 98 cent to €1.16 a litre since last Friday. I'm now heading for the border where it's 66 pence a litre. We're being ripped off by these oil companies while our government or regulators stand by and do nothing. I guess the higher the price, the more taxes come in for government is the way they see it. Of course, again, this is the wholesale price that oil companies pay for it. I'm not sure they're increasing their margins themselves. Surely listening to stories like that of Seamus Leonard this morning, murdered by the RUC, would help people understand why good people like Father Ryan felt compelled to take up arms to defend themselves. That's one person's view there. Does Peter Casey know about this property? I'm sure he'd be on board and would be able to turn it into a financial asset. I don't know. My thoughts on the NCT payments is the start of the dictatorship. Lord help us. In the next 10 years, life won't be worth living, says a listener there. I'm not sure it's that severe, going cashless. I'm not for it, but I think life will be worth living. But I take your point, and I don't know your personal circumstances, so maybe I shouldn't comment. Another caller says it's no wonder pubs are closing the cost of things. People are only going out once or twice a month or on a celebration of a special event. 2 young boys came in and ordered a double vodka and Red Bull. His friend ordered the same. €25 for 2 drinks. A large glass of wine in a hotel is now €14. It's no wonder people are not going out. Well, you'd get a bottle of wine for €14, wouldn't you? Who's ordering double vodka and Red Bull? Oh my word. I could have the hangover just thinking about it, but still, €25 for 2 drinks. That's a tight drink. Okay. A caller says, what's going on or what's going to be done about the overcrowding in Letterkenny University Hospital? The staff are doing their best, but there's only so much they can do. With a brand new facility opened in Ishone that's not open past 5 p.m. or at the weekends, would it not be better to extend the opening hours there and put in an X-ray service to try and alleviate the pressure on the ED department? What do the county councillors have to say about this? What are their thoughts on Donegal people, as this listener says, being treated like third world citizens? A caller says, when are the pride flags being removed from the streets of Letterkenny? As a lot of people, including myself, find them extremely offensive. What is it about the pride flag? And I'd be interested to know. Text back in, what is it about the pride flag that you find particularly offensive? Let me know. I know in the past we've had lots of people that found British flags flying around offensive, but I wonder what is of the pride flag in particular that offends you, that you want to see it removed. Let me know. 086 60 25,000.
The 9 till noon show brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Donegal Down Syndrome.
On this week's Business Matters, I'm joined by the owner of Malomia in Newton Cunningham, Linda McLean, and the network manager with Tech Northwest Skillnet, Siobhan Grant. So join me, Kieran O'Donnell, for Business Matters on Sunday evening after the 6 o'clock news. The Business Matters podcast is also available to download at highlandradio.com.
Business Matters in association with ATU Donegal Faculty of Business. Now is the time to realise your potential by enrolling on the part-time degree in business. Only 3 years with 1 evening per week on campus and another online. Open up your future by contacting the faculty office on 9186206 or visit lyit.ie today.
What's your dream job? Lawyer? Software developer? Engineer? Or criminologist? Do you want to develop renewable energies? Create the next great drama? Or improve people's health? Anything is possible at Ulster University, where you can study in the heart of Derry Londonderry. Clearing places are now available to help you realise your ambitions. It's time to say hello, future. Apply now for September 2023 at ulster.ac.uk/clearing.
Join the Highland Radio Outside Broadcast team this Wednesday afternoon from 2:40 at Letterkenny Credit Union for their first car draw of the year. 2 lucky Letterkenny Credit Union members will each win a brand new Renault Capture. A number of cash prizes will also be given away. So tune in this Wednesday from 2:40 to hear if you're a winner with Letterkenny Credit Union.
If you've a free travel pass, remember to use it on the Expressway network. It's the perfect way to catch up with friends, see your grandchildren and those you love. So use your free travel pass today. You can also book a seat online in advance at expressway.ie and get priority boarding for just €2 per journey. It's just the ticket to enjoy more.
Enjoy family fun this Sunday at the Northwest Truck Fest at Milford Mart with Truck Fest Ted, live music and presentation of the Decky Hullion and George Tracy Memorial Trophies. This ad is sponsored by Cranford Store, 9155 633.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
All right, it's 11 o'clock, time to get a news update. Let's go to Michaela Clark. Good morning, Michaela.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. New evidence has emerged in relation to the killing of Donegal man Michael Leonard in 1973. The 24-year-old was shot dead by the RUC near the Donegal-Fermanagh border. The British Ministry of Defence has supplied the family with new evidence which was not disclosed to them or the coroner at the original inquest into Michael's death nearly half a century ago. The Justice Minister says the facts of what happened at the Ironman in Cork need to be established so it never happens again. There are now conflicting statements about how the event, during which 2 men died, went ahead. During a follow-up inspection at a designated centre for people with disabilities in Lifford, says that while efforts have been made to ensure full compliance, there are still outstanding issues. The unannounced inspection at the centre operated by the rehab group was carried out in May. Concerns were raised by HICWA during an inspection in November 2022 in relation to the welfare of residents and the safety of the service provided. The owners of O'Doherty's Keep in Buncrana have been left with no other option but to put it up for sale. The family have already invested €150,000 in the building and have made efforts to secure funding or for a government body to take over responsibility for the building, which have to date proved unsuccessful. There's renewed calls for the Leaving Cert to be reformed as it results in education being boiled down to a 3-digit number. The National Association of Principals and Deputy Principals says the exam format is cruel and outdated. The results of this year's exams are due to be released on Friday. And motorists have been left frustrated facing multiple sets of traffic lights within a 6-kilometre route in East Donegal. Between Lifford and Liscooley, one set of temporary traffic lights are in place to facilitate Uisce Iron works, while 3 additional sets are in operation as works to construct a greenway from Lifford are carried out. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
OK, Michaela, thank you very much indeed.
I'm Daniel.
Siobhan, guess where I like to shop? Bet it's Aldi. I just like how much I can get for my money.
You can feed the family for great value at Aldi.
And I like the specially selected range.
Like Ireland's first ever Diamond Taste Award winner, specially selected dry-aged Black Angus ribeye steak.
It's quality.
So if you like great value and award-winning Irish steaks, it's got to be Aldi, Ireland's most reputable supermarket.
You're very welcome back. 08660 25,000 is our WhatsApp and text number, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. Right now, on Wellness Wednesday, we welcome onto the programme mental health advocate Niall Breslin. Hiya, Niall. How are you getting on?
I'm very good. How are you guys?
It's good to have you on the show. Now, you have launched your first live Where in My Mind podcast. It's in Donegal and on Green on Theatre in Letterkenny on the 28th of October. But before we talk about sort of the live experience, talk to me about the Where is My Mind podcast.
Yeah, I started it quite a few years ago now, and when not everybody on earth had a podcast. I was kind of figuring out how I could bring the information that I was studying and learning around mindfulness. I thought mindfulness was this really misunderstood area. It's oversold, number one. It is also really misunderrepresented in what it actually is. We often refer to it as mindfulness light. It's just a word we hear, especially around wellness, but actually no one really understands what it is. So what I wanted to do is to bring what I was studying, my master's and now my PhD, and bring it to an understandable, relatable kind of space to kind of teach people how to better take care of their heads in the head melty chaos of the modern world. And the modern world is head melty, let's be honest.
Yeah, and I think you're really hitting something there, because I do find through mindfulness, it's a little bit easier for me because we discuss mental health issues quite often on this programme. But even in physical health, you know, when people start talking about calories and calorie deficits and carbs, and, you know, so in terms of both physical and mental health, I think a lot of us would have more interest in it if we could grasp it, if we could say, oh, right, okay, but what does that actually mean? What is mindfulness? So how do I get myself into that space? What are the tools that I need to equip myself with?
Yeah, it's a really, really good point, because I find the whole wellness area completely confusing. And I've been a professional athlete. I've worked on, this area. I've studied this area, and I still feel half the time that it's just people who are good at communicating but don't have huge levels of knowledge of what they're communicating. The thing about mental health is subjective. Everybody has a different situation. Everybody has a different life experience. Everybody has all these different things. And if you ever see somebody hop on and go, here's the 3 ways that can solve all your problems, it's nonsense. It's without context, that means nothing. So what I always try to do with the podcast is I don't speak from a place of hierarchy, like I've figured all this out, because I certainly haven't. I'm on my own little journey with my own head and how I'm navigating it. But what mindfulness ultimately is for me is teaching yourself the space you take up in society and the space society takes up in you. And what I mean by that is this world's moving too fast. It just moves too fast. We're trying to all keep up, and fair play if you can. I can't. And mindfulness is often about the ability to actually diffuse and step yourself back from all that for a second and actually just sit with whatever's there, whatever's in you, whatever you're feeling, whether it's good or bad, whether it's anxious or happy, doesn't matter. It's learning to sit with that. And you might think that doesn't sound important, but that's absolutely crucial because often we are so mindless, we're so out of our heads trying to keep up the world that we miss living it. We miss living the stuff that's right in front of us.
Do you know the way I try and sort of imagine it in my head, or if a space I try and get into? Do you know in the airport, there's travelators on the flat, you can stand on them, right? Sometimes I like to step on one of those and just step to the side and just allow the power of technology to move me, whilst there are people rushing past me on the travelator, rushing past me up on the other side on their feet and all. And I just sit there and I hold on to the little rubber handle and I think for a moment, you know what? I'm actually really quite relaxed because I look around me. Now, I'm not saying people around me aren't relaxed, but it's just in that moment. So try and sort of get in that mind space that I'm just standing on the travelator, chilling out. I mean, perfect time. Might even have a pint. Who's to say? I'm not advocating.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Why not?
And everyone else, don't go on the travelator if you're going to run on it. You know what I mean?
And that's a metaphor. Like, see these metaphors. This is a prime example of teaching people how to understand or relate to something that they've seen or experienced before. I think the other thing that I think about a lot is, I have had a weird, eclectic life background from professional sport to music to all sorts of things. And the one thing I've learned as I got a little older is the most important thing you will do is learn how to rest. Genuinely how to rest properly, sitting on your arse and doing nothing and not feeling guilty about it. And the minute we do that, we often fill that space with, okay, I'm going to read a self-help book, how to better myself in this 2 hours. Self-help books are fine. But you know what? Sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing, genuinely nothing. And it's really difficult to do that without picking up your phone and seeing some guy on social media telling you that you're a failure if you're not going to the gym at 3 a.m. and having flaxseed smoothies at 4 o'clock.
But Niall, obviously, a lot of the time you avoid those quiet moments, those not busy moments, because when life is not in your head, then you be concerned or occupied with what your mind can stick in there. Circular thinking, worrying about, I'm happy at the moment, I must find something to worry about because I function best when I'm nervous or anxious or worrying about something. So how do we clear that space so that when we do take those moments to do nothing, that it's not something we fear?
Yeah, I mean, that's on the money. Like, avoidance is the root of all disorder. We like to avoid things. We either try to outtrain them. Let's go to the gym 8 times a day just so I don't have to deal with this stuff that is internal, that is causing me overwhelm or stress or whatever it might cause you. The big thing about mindfulness is the first port of call for mindfulness is non-judgment. And that's a big word. Like, non-judgment, you say to somebody, our entire life revolves around judgment, how we look, what we do, what we eat. Everything is judgment. And the real great way to start mindfulness, to sit in silence and just notice your breath or your body, or have a focus on a thought, which playing a round of golf in your head, whatever it might be, is see what it feels like not to judge yourself in that moment, just to let go of that. Like, when this is going to happen, you're going to start going, I'm terrible at this. My mind is racing. I shouldn't be doing this. Just notice yourself saying that and see what it feels like to let that go. Just be aware of it and let it go. And that's the shackles of expectation that aren't required in meditation or mindfulness. There's no one judging you here. There's no Olympic Games for meditation. And the thing about it is, my favorite thing is people who take pictures of themselves meditating. I'm like, great. It's become performative. People go, look how relaxed and calm I am. I don't need to see that. That's your space. It's for you. Whatever that is for you, if it's 5 minutes in the day, if it's an hour, if it's going for a walk, if it's getting into cold water, it's just your space and nobody has a right to it. And I think that element of non-judgment is a really powerful attitude and principle if you can bring it to any aspect of your life, because life is bloody hard sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of the time. I'm really encouraged by the space we're getting into now, and knock me back if I'm wrong, but early on in terms of, and I'm not talking about you, Niall, per se, but early on in when we started sort of mental health advocacy, it was almost like, I'm successful in sport or I'm successful in music, but I've had my struggles just like you. Then I did this and now I feel good. Mm-hmm. And I found that really quite, I found that the way it was handled years ago was counterintuitive, because for a lot of people, with mental health issues, they know it's onwards. It's you live with it or you cope with it. Not for everyone all the time. And then when you hear these stories of the typical, everything was great, hit a low, now I've figured out how to get back to where I am. It's not achievable, and I think for some people that was compounding where they're at. Now we're conversing in a way whereby we accept that, you know, you have to take measures or tool yourself up to, it's who you are, and to be in control and to be as happy as you possibly can, recognising that there are going to be times again when it's difficult.
That's like, these are the conversations that people need to hear. Like I've struggled with that as well. And just for absolute clarity, I'm not in this perfect utopia space of my own life. I just amn't. And I'm on a spectrum constantly where I go through periods where I feel I have purpose, where I feel connected to the world, where I feel connected to those around me. And there's periods I don't feel like that. For example, I find January really difficult. I get really affected by weather. I get really affected by I get tired. I can't sleep, weirdly enough. And it hits me. But the fact is, I'm aware that that's what happens to me in January. And with that awareness, I can do something with that. I can actually not be so hard on myself when it happens. I can take baby steps. I don't have to save the world in January. I can just take that space. And I know that now in myself. And there's periods in my life where I revert back to these moments where I can really use myself as a punch bag. And that is why I'm constantly in therapy. I've made that decision in my life that this is something that I do struggle with sometimes, and I go through waves. And actually, you go back to mindfulness. Mindfulness is built upon Buddhist psychology. This is not religious. This is just where mindfulness comes from. And the first noble truth of Buddhism is suffering is part of life. It is part of your life. It is part of it. You're going to lose people you love. You're going to have stressful situations. You're going to have relationship problems. That's life. No one sidesteps that stuff. And actually, the wellness industry sometimes tells you to sidestep that stuff and pretend it doesn't exist. That's just another form of silence. We've had silence for too long. But one thing I will say that's really important, in my PhD that at the moment, I'm looking at when we only gave the voice to professionals, when it was only professionals, psychiatrists and generally psychiatrists and medical men, as they were called in the last 150 years, they had a huge level of power over the narrative around mental health. And I don't think that's right either. I think it's important that we share this narrative to people who've experienced mental health issues. And if somebody wants to be a role model who's a famous footballer or GAA player, and reach out to young people and say to them, I go through this stuff. I haven't solved all this stuff, nor will I. That's a powerful thing.
And that story is now more nuanced. And it wasn't my criticism wasn't be how the person themselves were relating it. It was how it was being packaged, I think, sometimes by the media now, because no one puts themselves out there unless they're hoping to reach the people that you talk of. We have a situation whereby we've perhaps never talked more about mental health. We've never talked more about the mental health of young people and acknowledged it. But also we've never seen the rates of people needing services, self-harm. Do you share a concern I have that we need to make sure that we're talking about it correctly? That because the two things don't make sense to me. We're talking about it, we've awareness, there's decent supports in schools, and you'll see the posters on the walls and all that type of stuff. But at the same time, we're seeing record numbers of people on drugs, which I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes it allows people to see the woods for the trees and plot their path forward. But in terms of people, going to centres with mental health issues, self-harm and what have you, do you have a concern that we need to make sure we're getting the conversation right now? So whilst we have this awareness and this conversation, that we're productively helping people?
I must say I'm immensely impressed with the kind of oversight you have of this, because this is something that isn't talked about. And as I said, my entire next 5 years of my life is dedicated to my PhD to try and understand where we're at. So I'm looking at the last 150 years of intervention for mental health. And it has been pretty draconian and brutal when you look at what we used to do in Ireland, institutionalization. By 1950, we had the highest level of people in coercive confinement in the world, more than the USSR. Ireland loved putting people into institutions. So we have a legacy of that, and it's still in our health system. And our health system, most of us read the CAMS report that came out recently. My entire research is based around this CAMS report. And the CAMS Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services report was one of the grimmest and most difficult things I have read in a long time. Sad that we are one of the richest countries in Europe and we're failing children at the level we're failing them at. It's not acceptable. But one of the main things they said in that report is if we continue just to use the same model of care for children, we are going to be having this conversation in 50 years. And what they meant by that is if we treat every issue a child has as a biological issue, pathological, there's something wrong with them, their brain is broken. Rather than they need a bit of help, they need to navigate their worlds. They need to have assessments to make sure that they mightn't be struggling with their worlds. And when they get those assessments very quickly, then we intervene and we create a world that's more easy for them to navigate. That's a mental health service. That's what we got to be aiming at. So societally, we are reducing the stigma, and it's amazing to see it. But systematically, since I started this work 10 years ago, the Irish mental health system for children has got worse.
And also taking the action that you talk of, but whilst recognising something you've mentioned already, that life does come at you quick. Life is tough. There will be loss, there'll be disappointment, and you'll have to deal with things. But again, there are some people that think that the way we're bringing children up now, we're not equipping them for what happens when life hits you. That sometimes you don't win, but anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
Can I just say quick, sorry,
please? Yes, Niall, it's your interview. Go ahead.
A Lust for Life, which is the charity that I co-founded, focused specifically on early preventative models in primary schools. We're in over 1,000 primary schools. We look at emotional intelligence, emotional literacy, and part of that is to say to people, you are going to be knocked and you're going to have to figure out how to get back on your own feet. We'll support you, but that's life. And as soon as we, I think there's a fine line between that and my mum in the 80s used to, if you had even had a snotty nose, she put you on an antibiotic because that's what you did. And rather than going, maybe let your immune system fight this off a little bit. That's how you build resilience, is by understanding that sometimes the world will come at you and things will be difficult. And what psychologists call that a psychological flexibility, the ability to bend and the inevitable stuff that's going to come your way. And we need to let children know that. We need to let them know. We always want to keep children safe. We need them to let them know that they're safe. That's such a crucial part of a child. They need to feel safe. But they also need to understand that life will be difficult sometimes, and here's the tools to deal with it when it does happen. That's how you intervene. Ireland is a population of 5 million. We're the size of Manchester. If we cannot be world leaders in this, if we cannot aim to be world leaders at creating better mental health supports for children, I don't know which country can. And we're very well
it's not just in that area. It's in so many different areas, especially when we're told we're so well resourced. Let's start diverting. Instead of giving the odd tax break here or the odd 200 quid there, people want money spent on services. That's what the population want. But unfortunately, I'm not sure if we're going to be going in that direction. And also now, just in terms of the mindfulness, before we get back to the podcast, I mean, people are caught in, dependent on what form of poor mental health that they have, they can see no hope or can't get out of it, or this is the way I am, or this is how I operate. But you can, if you can give yourself a little bit of space to see your shoulders drop, to see maybe your heart rate slow down, you can see that you don't necessarily have to live your life constantly at the drive or at the way you are feeling. So mindfulness, presumably quite early on, people could start seeing the benefits of it. And once you see the benefits of it, then you can fully embrace it.
Yeah, I often say I think we've created such a stressful world that I don't think a lot of people know what it feels like not to be stressed anymore. It just feels like a default setting that we are now in, because as I said, this our brains weren't built for this world. It is just too fast. It's too much information, and it overwhelms and overloads the brain. And look, we just came through a global pandemic, and one of the things I say to people, if you're rinsed and you're anxious and you're exhausted right now, good, you should be. We have had a tough few years, and in the words of Elton John, you're all still standing, so maybe you're a little tougher than you think you are. And it's knowing that, and it's that language of empowerment and saying to people, what we do know through psychology and some of the biggest writers in the world, like Viktor Frankl and Dr. Ida Eger, is that we need to create hope. Hope is everything. Hope is every single thing for somebody who finds themselves in a dark place. Whatever that hope might be, oh my God, I can take a breath here, and I don't have to keep up. Or it might be something deeper than that, where you need psychological support and therapeutic support So that's when we have to fight to make sure that people, no matter who they are, whatever walks of life they are, whatever jobs they have, that we can create access to intervention to support them when they need it straight away in their community, in a way that they're not stigmatized. That is how you solve problems. And I look at people struggling right now, and we got to let them know there is hope. That's the key. But we have to be political here as well. This won't be solved by nice slogans by me. It'll be solved by political action. It'll be solved by political will and brave and courageous leadership. I don't believe politicians don't care about this. I just think it scares them.
I think it's the too overwhelmed at the job in hand. But as you reference the population here, we're in a prime position to show international best practice, to be the leaders in this. We did it with the smoking ban. We've done it in different areas. Why not this if the will is there? And also too, as you mentioned, we also, where we can, and everyone's situation is different, and I recognise that, we have to do our bit ourselves as well and take that step, and not, because the thing too is we can put the barriers up on ourselves. It's crazy, isn't it, that we know we probably know what we need to do, but our mind and the brain's a funny thing in that it will do things it thinks it's protecting you. It's like people who get stage fright. Your mind's telling you can't go up on that stage, right? Because if you go up on that stage, you might come to harm. And you're saying to your brain, well, no, I won't. So, we have to take a bit of control there. I mean, I'm saying it in really quite simplistic terms, but sometimes our brain thinks it's protecting us. It's protecting us, but it's not. We have to say, I know what you're doing, brain, here to keep me safe, but I kind of know a little bit better in this situation.
You say that to a kid who's anxious, and I always say to children that we work with mindfulness, I say, listen, you have a little security guard up there, and that security guard works. It's just trying to keep you safe. That's all it's doing. It's never trying to hurt you. But sometimes it needs to take a day off, or it needs to take a break. And that's what you're teaching them, is that type of language that's accessible. And then you say, I tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to teach you a little technique that you can use that will help you give that lad a break for 5 minutes. And it's, if you tell a child who's anxious and hyperactive to just breathe, it's pointless. It's a pointless thing to say to a child. It's pointless to say to an adult, generally.
Well, I always thought, just before, and hold on to your train of thought there, because I suffer a bit from anxiety here and there. It's worse sometimes than others. And it's funny, whatever the style that I have, manual breathing makes everything worse, if you know what I mean. It's one of the big solutions, but that thing where you manually breathe, I hate it. It never worked for me at all.
We got to be careful here. This is once again around. I speak with Patrick McKeown, who's the kind of leading voice in oxygen advantage and breathing. You talk to somebody who's had panic disorder or a negative relationship with their breath. The last thing you tell them is to focus on their breath. This is important. This is language. This is why we train. This is why we do our masters. This is, why we don't, call ourselves mindfulness teachers, when you have to be accredited. You need to know what you're doing, because if you put somebody into a panic, you need to know what to do in that situation. So what I say to people, when we do a pre-assessment and we know that this person has struggled with anxiety and panic disorder, I will never ask them to focus on their breath. I will ask them to focus on their senses, their body, because it doesn't need to be the breath. You're trying to bring them into the present moment. I always say, the one thing we do with kids, one thing you can smell, one thing you can see, one thing you can hear. Get them out of their heads. If you have anxiety and panic, so get them out of the heads and into the body. The body will calm you down. And this is why it's important that people like me have to be accredited if we're going to be working with people around mindfulness.
Yeah, and you know what, we could go down. A young person came to me talking about stuff that they heard on TikTok about the area of mental health, and that we could do another half hour on that, because unfortunately, and the way the algorithm works, if a young person is struggling a bit with anxiety or mental health, they watch a video or two on TikTok. Next thing, their For You page is full of that, and it's not licensed, it's not accredited, and some of it's really, really quite worrying, and we are oblivious to it. So you really need to make sure that your child, young person in your life, is not getting their mental health advice from particularly TikTok, because the way the way the content is curated there. Right, so people are familiar with the Where Is My Mind podcast. Talk to me then about the live show on October 28th, Niall, please.
Yeah, I think it's funny with the live show. We've had a few amazing shows already in the Olympia and in Cork, and people expect it to be what we've probably just talked about here, like, and the politicals. It's not that. It's quite irreverent. It's quite funny. It's quite a heartwarming look. They don't want me standing on stage being intense with them about these things, but they have to be relatable. This has to be relatable, has to be vulnerable, and has to be functional. And that's what the live podcast is. It's got music, it's got spoken word, it's got pieces I've composed by John O'Donoghue, who's my real muse in terms of my work, and it's got brilliant guests. I have an amazing guest for Donegal. I can't announce them yet, but it's an amazing guest. It's not Jim McGuinness. I was considering.
Well, if you can get him, I can do no harm.
I think he's other things in his mind.
Yeah,
right
that's
now,
what I'm thinking. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
but I'm sure I could help him with a few stress things. But anyway, it's actually quite a fun 2 hours. But it is also people walk away with something in their pockets. You know, that's the important thing. It's quite heartwarming. It isn't that intense. Let's talk about mental health. It's talking about my mental health. It's talking about the absolute state of my mind sometimes. And it's funny, like some of the stuff that I look back on, I can laugh about, not in a throwaway way, but in a way like I can look at it now and I can see it from a different place. And I think people relate to that. And it takes the intensity out of this conversation. And whether you're somebody going through it, or you have a loved one going through something, or you just want to understand to be a better support for the relationships in your life, this show works. It works for you. And as I said, it's got everything I love: music, mindfulness, and good chat.
And surprise guests. Okay, Niall, listen, thanks for the chat. People can get their tickets for On Grianon Theatre in Letterkenny on the 28th of October from the On Grianon box office. Thanks for your time today and continued good physical and mental health to you into the future. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks. All right, Niall Breslin there. Back with more shortly.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
It's the 9 till Noon Show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart, with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
Jack's been with Vodafone Broadband for 3 years and Aoife joined yesterday, but now they can get the same price. With Vodafone Broadband, you can pay just €40 a month and your bill won't double at the end of your contract. Available for both new and existing customers. After all, it's only fair. Find out more at vodafone.ie/broadband. Vodafone, together we can. Subject to signing up to Vodafone Home 500 megabit fibre broadband, 12-month minimum contract. Price subject to annual price adjustment of CPI plus 3% each April. For terms, see vodafone.ie/terms.
Don't miss the Seven Gables Vintage Working Event this Saturday 26th and Sunday 27th of August at Mullinan on the Derry-Donegal border, which will be well signposted. Enjoy a great display of steam engines, stationary engines, cars and tractors. There's also live corn threshing, tractors working, trade stalls, crafts, live music and children's amusements. Proceeds native to Donegal Hospice. This ad is sponsored by Sean McKelvey Trailers, Killygordon.
Brian McCormick, Sports and Leisure, Main Street, Letterkenny. Looking for the triple black option. Vans Selden with a leather upper, only €60. Save €15. Adidas and Nike triple black trainers will have you ready for back to school. Kids footwear from Nike, Adidas, Asics and Vans in all sizes. Get the trainer that fits you best by using your safe size experience and get to know your feet. Brian McCormick, Sports and Leisure. Click on bmcsports.ie and get your free delivery.
Do you have your ticket yet? €2,500 every Friday. Plus a chance to win big.
10,000 cash money.
Get your ticket today. Go to highlandradio.com. Summer's just got better. Better.
Ooh.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
Well, the time is 30 minutes past 11, 11:30.
Business Matters in association with ATU Donegal Faculty of Business. Now is the time to realise your potential by enrolling on the part-time degree in business. Only 3 years with 1 evening per week on campus and another online. Open up your future by contacting the faculty office on 9186206 or visit lyit.ie today.
Okay, that means it's time for Business Matters, and we're joined in studio as we are every Wednesday morning, just after 11 or after 11:30 or whatever time it is, because we're recording this on a Monday afternoon. Kieran, Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Greg.
It's good to have you in. All right, as always, by the way, the Business Matters podcast is live for you right now on our website, highlandradio.com, and you can also get it on Spotify or iTunes. But we'll tell you more about that in a moment, because what we're going to do first is catch up with some news. We're starting with investment in Carragart Hotel. Kieran?
Yeah, Greg, work has commenced on a €5 million investment in the Carragart Hotel, which was bought recently by the Dunloe-based Bridgeburn Development Company. The well-known hotel, which has been operating since the early 1900s, was purchased by Dermot and Nina Walsh in 1946 and was subsequently taken over by the late Dermot Walsh Jr., who also ran the Portobello Hotel for a time.
Yeah, okay, great to see work ongoing there. On the flip side, almost a restaurant closing in Dunloe.
Yeah, the husband and wife team of John and Anne Boyle, who have been running the Butter Rock restaurant in Dunloe for over 20 years, are getting ready to close their doors for the final time. Speaking to the Donegal News, John cited difficulty in recruiting staff as the main factor in their decision to retire from the business.
It's a strange state of affairs, isn't it? I mean, with all the other challenges, recruitment is a major factor. It's a major struggle. And it's not just in restaurants, but in bars too, closing a couple of days a week simply because they just can't get the staff.
It's a recurring theme, Greg, and it's through all sectors. And recruitment and retention are major challenges for employers across the board, and this is just another example of that.
All right, upcoming business information session. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the next business information session, Greg, will take place at the Donegal Local Enterprise Office at the Enterprise Fund Business Centre in Letterkenny on Friday. That is August the 20th between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. The event is free, and to register, check out the Local Enterprise Office social media platforms.
All right, some developments at Century Complex, all in a very positive way, Kieran.
Yeah, work has commenced on the development of a 22,000 square foot extension at the Century Complex in Letterkenny, which will include an indoor crazy golf course. So when these facilities are up and running, Greg, the workforce at Century Complex will increase to over 100. The new project was designed by MH Associates, and the contract for the works was awarded to locally based contractors Dorian Construction.
Right, okay, great to see progress there. The World Cup, the Women's World Cup, concluded there on Sunday, and it's brought in the money.
Massive money, Greg. As you say, the Women's World Cup that concluded at the weekend generated over €520 million in revenue. The tournament sold over 1.7 million tickets, 400,000 more than estimates predicted, and broke TV records all over the world. And just from a domestic point of view, Ireland's 2-1 defeat to Canada was the highest viewed Irish women's sporting event of all time in Ireland, with more than 500,000 people tuning in.
Which is remarkable, particularly given the time the game kicked off. Ireland, I said on the radio earlier in the week that I'm not saying Ireland could have won it. Well, I did say that. I'm not saying it now on reflection. But just watching a number of games, Ireland just didn't seem that far away. Like, it just seems that if we got a couple of players in or change a few things, that, you know, we can look forward to being there or thereabouts in tournaments down the line. Is that a crazy thing to say?
I don't think so. And I do agree with you. I don't think they were far away. Possibly not having had the experience of a major tournament like that in the past may have caught up with them. But as the results panned out, they were very, very close to maybe progressing to the latter stages.
Yeah, and the way I put it, like, on their day, I think they could have beaten the Spain or the England that we watched on Sunday. But as I say, maybe I'm just being hopeful and overly optimistic.
And obviously we're we biased too, but I did think Amber Baird got a raw deal, and given that the fact that she can score on the big occasions, I didn't think she was utilised enough.
No, and then when she was utilised, she wasn't really given a fair crack of the whip.
Exactly.
All right, okay, that's a run through some of the news making the business pages this week. Let's talk about this week's podcast. What's coming up, Kieran?
Yes, on this week's Business Matters, Greg, I am joined by the owner of Malomia in Newton Cunningham, Linda McLean, and the network manager with Tech Northwest Skillnet, Siobhan Grant. A food scientist turned gourmet marshmallow and Rocky Roads maker, Linda McLean set up the business in 2014, and in 2020 she opted to go full-time at the venture. After graduating from Queen's and completing her master's degree in Aberdeen, Linda spent the next 15 years working in Germany, Holland, Belgium and England in product development. Last month, she opened a new workshop where people of all ages can enjoy the experience of creating their own custom-made treats. Here, Linda talks about her decision to build a new purpose-built workshop to make things more efficient.
Well, I was running the business from the home kitchen, and it was more or less totally dedicated to marshmallows.
Was it mayhem?
It was really crazy, especially at busy times, at Christmas, or especially around Christmas, or if you're preparing for a big festival like Bloom or the Ploughing or something. And every chair had a box on it, and you couldn't really get away from your work ever. And there was a bit of resistance within me to get more orders as well, because then the chaos never stops and you never get a break. So it was just really during lockdown, like I said, I had so many orders, and I just thought this could be a lot bigger than what you're making it, or you're keeping it at now. So, we created the new workshop, and it took a lot of effort to get it up and running, and, do all the wee fine decorative pieces to it.
And I suppose, Kieran, not knowing all the ins and outs because I haven't heard the podcast yet, is this sort of going down the route of what we might see in terms of, like gin, see how it's made, sample it, that type of stuff? We're seeing that now with different types of foods or food experiences. In other words, it's not simply a shop, it's offering people an experience.
Yeah. Linda's, when she set up the business originally, it was very much product-led. When I did ask her that question, she does intend maybe to focus more on that visitor experience. She does have the premises and the wherewithal to provide that now. And the way she described it is, look, people coming 6th birthday parties, 60th birthday parties, family experiences, something different to do.
Yeah.
And given our not so nice summer, she was quite busy with the family element. It's a new departure that has just taken off last month, and she's extremely satisfied with the feedback to date.
Great stuff. Okay, now your second interview with Siobhan.
Yeah, I also spoke to Tech Northwest SkillNet Network Manager Siobhan Grant about the Lead Tech programme that begins in September. And I asked Siobhan who the programme was aimed at and what they can expect to take away from it.
The programme is aimed at either a business owner of a small local business that has a technology element. And I mean, even looking at yourself, Kieran, we all need technology to record an interview, so there's very few businesses now that don't have technology. But I suppose we're focused on businesses using technology, and we're also looking at team leaders within the multinational employers, the likes of Optum and Fintru and that, who are in the region, who have senior people who are really technically competent but are interested now in developing their people skills, and in particular leadership, communication, and a wee bit of project or strategy work.
Interesting stuff as always, Kieran. Now, the full interviews with Linda and Siobhan available now to stream or download from our website, highlandradio.com, and also available elsewhere, of course.
Yeah, and wherever you get your podcast. And Business Matters goes out on air on Sunday evening after the 6 o'clock news.
And if anyone wants to get in touch with the show,
yeah, just drop me an email, please, Greg, businessmatters@highlandradio.com.
Rightio. Now, you're not with us next week or the week after, so that's unfortunate, but people will still obviously be able to get their fix of Business Matters.
Yeah, we will plan to run a couple of playback issues, Greg, over the next couple of weeks, like we did last summer and over the winter. And there was a very good reaction. I got the impression that one of the podcasts that we reran, people mightn't have heard the first one, but they certainly heard the second recording. And the person that I interviewed was still getting feedback at the start of the year as a result of having heard it back.
All right, and just to remind, it's a massive catalogue there of Business Matters podcasts as well. If you're involved in business, have an interest in business or starting your business, literally some of the best brains from across the region have been interviewed in the past, in previous episodes, and will be interviewed into the future. So make sure to listen back to the archive there of the Business Matters podcast. But for now, Kieran, enjoy your short break. We'll speak to you in a couple of weeks. But again, thanks for calling in to us today.
Good morning, Greg.
All right, that was Kieran O'Donnell. We'll be back with more in the 9 till noon show after this quick break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Donegal Down syndrome.
Cuireann cervical check scag hostal curvax fáil siarnáisce de bhná idir 25 agus 65 bliain d'aois. Tá scag hostal curvax le high HPV Sean na Bally is fear leis an risca a laidú go dúcach an ailte ceirveacs tamachchan se. Mátá se nám dat scag hostal ceirveacs a áil, déan cunne iniu. Le hólas a áil agus lena chin tú gúil tú an glór, teichaig hse.ie/cervical check. Ó aimimenacht na Service Sláinte.
At Lidl, we've done our homework on back-to-school savings. Feed the family with 20% extra free on board the approved diced Irish chicken fillets, now $3.79. Add 50% extra free with cherry vine tomatoes, now $2.79. And subtract 20% off our entire Crownfield cereal range with Lidl Plus. Go on, shop without compromise. Go full Lidl today.
Attention one and all. Easy Living Furniture is turning 25 and we are celebrating with an amazing anniversary sale this bank holiday weekend. Join us for our biggest sale ever, and with free delivery on all orders over £500, this is one sale not to miss. But hurry, as this amazing sale must end soon. Visit Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park. Easy Living Furniture, making homes great since 1998.
Don't miss the Northwest Truck Fest taking place this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart. Enjoy a truckload of fun with live music, a truck lights display and much more. This ad is sponsored by Donegal Oil, 9121633.
All right, we have been talking about electricity charges, prices, the bills people have been received over the last while. But maybe this is a lesson that you shouldn't always just presume that they are correct and take it as fact. Niall Harding is owner of The Dealer, and he's with us now. Hiya, Niall.
Hi, good morning, Greg.
Right, so what was your experience, Niall, in terms of receiving your electricity bill and the events that followed?
Well, its saga has run for over a year. The readings that I submitted were never applied, and estimations were very highly overestimated. I found that the system didn't work in terms of trying to resolve it over the phone. Generally speaking, I spoke to people who were not in a position to do anything except recite policy. And eventually, I was told a reading had been taken. Our meter is external, so that the meter reader can read. And a meter reader who, by the way, is from the ESB networks. The electricity companies don't read the meters themselves. They don't have meter readers. It's the ESB networks that read the meter and submit the readings. And the result was that the meter reading was extremely inaccurate. Thousands and thousands of kilowatts overread. And all I got was it's human error. It's just human error. So I asked for it to be corrected. I bought a newspaper. I took a photograph of the newspaper beside the meter, and I emailed it, and nothing happened. And the bill continued to escalate with estimates, no matter how many phone calls I made and how many other times I returned the meter reading.
So what were the prices of what were you receiving bills for versus your expectations?
Well, now that's just what I was about to come to. My expectation was going to be in the region of 240 to 300 euro for the account. And the bill was 2,560 odd euro. Over 2,500.
Wow.
So eventually I did all the calculations myself. I have the knowledge of how to calculate the bills with the levies, etc. And I submitted the whole lot with photocopies, and I asked them to revisit the billing again. Didn't happen. So I finally resorted to making a final threat that I would go to the Ombudsman, that I would also refuse to make any further payment, and I wished to have the matter brought to court before a judge. And I also intended to haul in the auditors of Electric Ireland on the basis that the accounting system of Electric Ireland was deficient, and there appeared to be no mention by the auditors that that was the case.
What happened then, Niall?
Well, what happened then was I got through to a very nice gentleman in Cork only 3 weeks ago and somehow or another he was able to fix everything there and then.
So they accepted your evidence and they revised the bill downwards then, obviously.
Eventually, yes. It was the whole bill, because I had been holding payments.
Yes.
So for the previous 6 months, it came to just over €569, which I paid. And quite happy.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also told then by that individual that the best way to deal with Electric Ireland is to wait until you get the estimated bill and then submit the correct reading, and they will issue a new bill. Now, I haven't had the opportunity to see if that works, but I have been speaking to somebody in the last 24 hours who could tell me that they have been trying to do it that way because that's how they were also advised, and it doesn't happen. They continue to send out estimated, exaggerated bills.
Now, on my bill, it says meter was read on and it gives a date. Does that mean they're reading my meter or what? Or is that when
if they have read your meter? But I would suggest to everybody that they read the meter themselves.
Yeah.
Because you're just accepting that the meter reading was correct.
But is there an issue with your reading? How do you know that your next bill for the next 2 months won't be €1,800, for an example? Like, you've won this battle. How do you know that you've won the war?
I have to wait and see. But I doubt it very much, because I also put it to him that there must be some basis for estimations, and that the estimations of average usage that I might have, it should be revised. So if there is an estimated bill, it is within reason. And we'll see what happens.
I think sometimes too, you see, people are reluctant. You know, if it's an estimated bill, people are reluctant to submit a reading in case it's revised upwards. I have spoken to people that have that fear. We're kind of conditioned. I don't know what it is about the Irish. We're so apologetic and afraid to stand our ground and afraid to stick our heads above the parapet. But I have spoken to people that are reluctant to submit the reading in case they go, oh, actually, you've used €400 more electricity than we estimated. Do you get me?
Yeah, I do, and I fully understand that, because the way the bill is calculated is complicated. There are also price changes. When you're looking at there's dates and timings on the back of the bill that will tell you when they've had a price increase, and therefore there's apportionments as to when this was supposed to have taken place based on the number of days, and it's averaged. There's also a levy, and that levy is based on the number of days. There's also then VAT on a certain amount of the bill at the VAT rate. So it's actually a difficult calculation for somebody to make. So I can understand why people would be fearful. But I do suggest strongly that they check the reading that is on the back of the bill that will say whether it's an estimated reading or whether it's a customer reading or whether it's actually an actual reading.
Ita in Clonmany says, stay there a second now. Ita in Clonmany says, hi Greg, my electric bill has almost tripled since my last bill 2 months ago. They installed a new meter at the end of June. My supplier is Energia. They say my bill is correct and I've always given exact readings. Like, is there anything that's happened in the markets that we're seeing bills triple now in the a lot of people's bills that are coming through now, they've tripled. And, you know, this is Ita, or as submitted readings. And I presume Ita feels like, well, she's going to have to swallow this. But how could a bill triple over summer compared to your first 2 bills of the year? I don't get it. And it's causing great anguish and hardship for people now.
All right, okay. Well, what I'm going to say next is probably going to cause an awful lot of annoyance to the electricity companies. Because
they'll be all right.
There's a change. There is a new factor in just what you've read out, and that is that this person has said they got a new meter. Now, I am making a presumption here that is a smart meter that has been installed. Now, what people don't understand about the smart meter is the smart meter works on the same system as our mobile phone. And the smart meter sends by GSM, by phone call, if you like, to a central place, giving the time and the usages. Now, if the mobile service is not working correctly, you will get very, very inaccurate information on your bill, because you could find you're being charged the high rate even at night time. Now, I live in a very bad service area for mobile phone, so I have refused to have a smart meter because I know if I install a smart meter, I will be absolutely crucified financially for an electricity bill.
Okay.
Because they will not be.
Niall, thanks for your time. Maybe other people will take them on, and we'll see if anyone else can report back like you. Thanks, Niall. Appreciate it. Hope
Well, Greg, before I go, I'd just like to say, please, everybody, do not allow yourself to be bullied by the large organisations, both telephones and services, electricity. Don't be bullied.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Niall, take care. Niall Harding, their owner of the dealer, and he threatened them with the ombudsman and to take action, take me to court, and they did relent. A caller says, how could the ladies have won the World Cup when their best centre forward was sitting on the bench? Now, I say a lot of stuff on this programme. Some of it's quite controversial, some's opinionated, or it's designed to have a conversation. I've very rarely had such a blowback from suggesting that Ireland could have won the World Cup. Now, what I'm saying is that I just thought that if certain things had gone our way, if the right players were played at the right time, i.e. our own Amber, for example, in the right position, that we were capable of beating either of the two teams in the final on the day. Now, if you could suggest that, if you agree with that, then if things had gone our way, that's all. But I am trying to be more optimistic. But it's at my most optimistic times that I receive the most criticism. And by the way, I'm not. It's not criticism. It's fun, and I don't mind criticism either. But it's just funny. All right, we're really busy on the phone lines today. It's been a cracker of a week so far, with so many of you messaging in. And listen, the overwhelming majority of you just sit and listen. That's the nature of radio. That's why the national stations struggle to make a phone-in show and have to make up callers and stuff like that, because the majority of people just sit at home and listen, or sit at work or in the car and listen. But there is a proportion of you that do get in touch, and we wish it were greater, but we're really happy with the amount of you that do. I'd say we're as busy and interactive show as there is in the country, so we really do thank you for that. Okay, we'll have more of your comments then after these.
It's the 9 till noon show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart, with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
The new Corolla Hybrid Electric range is here, and the Corolla Cross SUV is the latest addition to the iconic family. Spacious and beautifully designed, it's perfect for growing families everywhere. And it's available to order now at Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles. With exceptional electric drive time and no plugging in, the next generation is ready to take over. See the new Corolla Cross today at Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles. Toyota, built for a better world. Terms and conditions apply.
Over recent months, we've all been dealing with the reality of rising energy costs, and we've all been making changes to reduce our energy use. However, if you are having trouble paying your energy bills, be sure to talk to your supplier as soon as possible. There are a range of protections in place for customers. Organisations such as MABS and Alone can also help. For information on these and all other supports available, visit gov.ie/reduce your use. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Attention one and all. Easy Living Furniture is turning 25 and we're celebrating with an amazing anniversary sale this bank holiday weekend. Join us for our biggest sale ever, and with free delivery on all orders over £500, this is one sale not to miss. But hurry, as this amazing sale must end soon. Visit Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park. Easy Living Furniture, making homes great since 1998.
Donegal Texel Sheep Breeders are holding a sale of 87 rams and 9 ewes in Rafo Livestock Mart this Saturday, the 26th of August, with the sale at 12:30 p.m. Online bidding via the Mart Bids app. That's this Saturday at Rafo Mart.
Donegal County Council has prepared a proposed material alterations to the draft Letterkenny Plan and Local Transport Plan 2023 to 2029 for public inspection. Public consultation runs from Friday 11th of August to Friday 8th of September 2023. For details, see consult.donegal.ie.
Just to remind you that Sunday week we are broadcasting live from London Town. We're over there for the Donegal Vintage Show. Well, it's the London Vintage Show. It's not just Donegal, by the way. There's people from all over the country that attend it, and a lot of locals too. We are going over there to do a special show that's broadcast on Sunday afternoon between 12 and 2. 12 and 2, yeah, okay. And we're going to chat to people over there, talk to people from the region who are now making their lives in London. We'll talk to some musical guests and all that type of stuff. So if you're going over, and I think there's a big crowd going over, let us know. Get in contact with us. Maybe we can have a chat over there. Or if you're listening to us in London, maybe you want to come along and have a chat and say hello to us. Now, you can contact us here at the radio station or send me a message on Facebook. Though my messenger is really, really busy and sometimes I miss things, but I do eventually catch up. But anyway, we're going to be in London on Sunday week, broadcasting from the Vintage Show. You'll be able to listen to it on the radio. You'll be able to watch it as well and see our guests. So if you're over there, come up and wave into the camera because we are fully interactive here. We do stuff on this station that no one else is doing, broadcasting the show across the radio, and you can watch it as well every single day. Right, Ireland's ladies were very unlucky. I mean, this is a caller saying this. I mean, the first game by a fluky penalty and the second game by a fluky own goal. It could have been so different. They just didn't get the breaks. They did us proud, and I enjoyed their style of play more than watching their male counterparts. Thank you. I agree. I finally found someone who's agreeing with me. We do appreciate it. Caller says if the youth on bail in Dublin after assaulting someone on the street, if you're old enough to do the crime, you're old enough to do the time. Judges' names should be published as it makes it harder for them to hand down tougher sentences out of fear. As a result, we've got young people walking away from their crimes and no consequences, only encouraging them to keep up the behaviour. The right to bail in certain circumstances is somewhat enshrined in law, and I don't think we want to do anything because, you know, we start doing knee-jerk reactions to stop people the opportunity to have bail, but until someone's proven guilty, you know, that could have ramifications and ripples. I'm not saying it's not something we need to look at, but every action has a consequence. That's the one thing we just have to be careful of. Okay, that is where we have to leave it on the programme today. Wednesday show is in the bag. Thank you to all of you who listened to the programme and those of you who took part. We're going to do it all.